Today, we're going to be taking a look at some of the boldest FNAF fan games ever created. Instead of playing it safe, these developers took risks, experimented with new ideas, and built experiences unlike anything else in the community. Some of these barely resemble traditional FNAF games, and that's exactly what makes them so memorable, so let's dive into them. I've been covering FNAF games for quite a while, and every time I find a super unique game, I think to myself, there's no way any other FNAF game is going to be able to top that in creativity. But then, like clockwork, I find another one, and the game we'll be talking about today is no different. The game we'll be looking at today is called FNAF Showtime, a game made with Godot and is completely 3D, with hands down the most unique mechanic I've ever seen in a FNAF game before, and I can guarantee you've never seen anything like it either. So strap in as we dive into the exceptionally difficult world of FNAF Showtime. Jumping right into night one, there's plenty to talk about. To start, we don't actually just get booted directly into the office. Instead, we start at the entrance and can actually freely roam around the building to get a feel for our surroundings, which I always think is really nice. The layout of the building is incredibly different from any other FNAF game I've ever played, with the office being directly in the center of the building. This game consists of 9 cameras, and I mention that number for a very specific reason I'll mention later. Walking around the building, we stumble into the main dining room and can get a glance at single-handedly the most uncomfortable animatronics I legitimately think I've ever seen. These things are rancid and disgusting. They got the British treatment with their teeth, too. That's nasty. What the fuck? Oh my. Look at that pot belly, bro. Dude, that cheek is nasty. That cheek is actually so gross. I don't like it at all. I don't think any kid would want to come to a restaurant with the characters looking like this. Anyways, moving to our office, we can talk about the tools we have at our disposal. And strap in because this might just be the most creative and horrifying FNAF game we've ever covered. In Showtime, you're stuck in the cameras once you start the night. You can never drop them, which means you can never close your doors. Not that that's an issue anyways, as both of the entrances to your office don't even have doors. This is where those 9 cameras I mentioned become super important. Your cameras are controlled by your keyboard, not your mouse, using the keys Q, W, E, A, S, D, Z, X, and C. If you take a look at the cameras, you'll be able to see which letter correlates to each camera. This is a system that took me very long to get used to, but it's actually super cool. Now, when it comes to looking around the cameras, Showtime isn't like most FNAF games. The cameras don't pan back and forth by themselves. Instead, you're in charge of manually controlling the cameras using your mouse, and you have full control of the cameras, being able to point them in literally any direction you want, which I think is really cool. You'll even notice that there's a camera in your office and you can actually see yourself at your desk. But if we can't leave the cameras and there's no way to close the doors, how are we supposed to defend ourselves from the threats this game introduces? That is an amazing question. But before we answer it, let's talk about the 2 threats this night introduces. Night 1 introduces both Bonnie and Chica. I'm going to be talking about them at the same time since they both behave in the same way. Obviously, their goal is to reach your office, so that's exactly what they'll do. Something I really like about this game is you can always watch them move around the building. They don't have just one static frame for each camera. As this game is a 3D environment, the characters actually do roam around. Now, onto how to defend yourself. Well, your camera is equipped with the ability to reset the animatronics and force them to go back to where they started. And how do you activate this? Well, let's just say I hope you guys have been practicing aim labs because you're gonna need it. By holding left click, you can shoot a signal out of the camera where the crosshair is pointing. If you see Bonnie or Chica anywhere on the map, aim the crosshair at their head and hold down left click. Do this for long enough and a little jingle will play and their eyes will glow yellow, signaling that they will return to their starting location. Is that not like the coolest shit you've ever seen? I've never seen anything like that in a FNAF game before. I love it when fan devs try something new, and I think this one really nailed it, because this makes this game incredibly stressful. And that's for one main reason. You'll notice that there are a bunch of employee-only doors all around the building, and that's for a good reason. If the characters could only come from one area, it'd be way too easy to just camp their spawn points. So, when a character goes into attack mode, they will appear from literally any of the employee doors around the entire map. They can start in the main dining room, they can start in the entrance, the 2 party rooms, Pirates Cove, the arcade. It doesn't matter. They can come from anywhere, needing you to constantly be monitoring everything and listening for footsteps to see where the characters are going to come from. It is hard to put into words just how cool and creative this mechanic is. Nope. Get the fuck back in there, dude. I want nothing to do with you. This is gonna be fun. This one's gonna be fun, dude. Holy shit. These characters move around a lot, so you will have to be tracking their heads constantly, which I personally think is really fun. And I think it's absolutely terrifying when you hear a character's footsteps, but you can't quite tell which room they're coming from. That mad dash looking around the cameras to try and find them in time really adds to the tension this game builds. Dude, where are they going? I cannot keep track of these guys for shit, dude. And it's only going to get crazier and more difficult as we continue. So let's move on to night 2. Guys, I've got some great news for you. After a long time of waiting, the Skags plushie is finally live. I've been working with Makeshift to make the perfect Skags plushie possible, and I think he's turned out perfect. We obviously talk a lot about Five Nights at Freddy's on this channel, so I figured it'd be great to make him in the exact style as the FNAF plushies, which means he'll easily be able to sit on your desk or shelf without falling over. You guys made this possible. I could have never done this without you. To everyone who supported the petition a few months back, thank you guys so much. But you guys have to be fast, as Skags is only around for a limited time. Once this campaign is over, he'll be gone forever, so you really don't want to miss out. This is hands down the coolest thing that has ever happened to me as a YouTuber, and I never thought 2 years ago when I started this channel that it would get me this far in life. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate every single one of you. You guys have made my dreams come true, and this is one small way I can celebrate that. So go get yourself a Skags plushie before time runs out. He's the perfect gift for anyone who likes stuffed animals, and I guarantee if you put this guy in your bed, the Huzz are gonna flock to you like birds. So that's always a plus too. Thank you guys so much for all the support, and thank you to Makeshift for making this plushie with me and putting up with my constant tweaks to make sure that Skags is as perfect as he is. Sorry for interrupting. Let's get back to the video. Night 2 only adds one new threat to the game, and that threat is Foxy. Honestly, not that big of a deal when compared to the other characters and their bullshit. Foxy is very simple. He stays in Pirates Cove the entire game. He'll slowly move through different phases before charging at your office. Throughout the night, just make sure you're shooting him to reset his position, and he really shouldn't be an issue at all. No, where the challenge of this game comes into play is Bonnie and Chica, and the awkwardness of aiming and resetting them, as a lot of the time it feels very unresponsive. One of the strategies I came up with was at the start of the night, pointing all of the cameras at every possible place where the animatronics can come from. That way I can watch all 9 of them at once and see which characters come from which doors. And this would be the perfect strategy, except for 2 main problems. Let's start with the smaller issue. But don't get it twisted, it's still a pretty big issue. The characters move very quickly when they're walking. That by itself isn't a problem. What is a problem is the inconsistent amount of time it takes to send the characters back. Sometimes when you shoot them to reset, you only have to hold the mouse down for 3 seconds, and other times you have to hold it for upwards of 8 seconds. This massive inconsistency makes it very difficult to deal with the characters properly. But now onto the much bigger issue, which I admit is partially a skill issue on my end, but it also shows one of the game's flaws. An animatronic can be in a room. No shit. However, if you're looking at a character in a room from a camera that is not in the same room, you will not be able to reset them, even if you can clearly see them and have your crosshair directly on them. I think this is a problem. As mentioned earlier, it can take several seconds to send these characters back. And they're very fast, so they will be switching cameras frequently. And you'll have to match what cameras they're going to constantly, since you can't reset them from the room that the camera isn't in, even if you see them. The part where this is a skill issue is, I haven't been able to learn the map perfectly, to know off the top of my head how all of the rooms are attached. When you control the direction of each camera, and there's 9 of them, it will very, very quickly become incredibly disorienting to even figure out which area of the building you're in, let alone track 2 characters that are constantly walking around all the time. Again, this specific part is a skill issue for sure, but I do think my previous point is an actual problem. Hey, got my fucking aimbot on, bro. What the fuck? This is cheating. Bonnie's cheating. The fuck, where is he? Oh shit. Dude. Where the fuck is he? What the fuck? Dude, where the fuck was he? I could not find his ass. The fuck he go to, bitch? But with that out of the way, let's move on to night 3. Night 3 is actually a doozy, guys, I can't lie. While no new threat is introduced, an entire new mechanic is implemented that makes this game extraordinarily harder than you could ever imagine. What is that mechanic, you ask? Well, let me tell you, pretty much Satan. Now, at specific times throughout the night, all of the lights to the building will be turned off for at least 1 in-game hour, sometimes longer, making it incredibly fucking difficult to see anything. So difficult that through my playthrough, which you can see over on my second channel, Dxtr Black, I actually had to change my graphics settings to make it easier for me to see, because there's no way in hell I would have completed this otherwise. However, there is something I want to praise this game for when it comes to introducing this mechanic, as thankfully it didn't just drop it directly on your forehead like I do with babies. Instead, it makes the early half of the night incredibly easy. While the phone guy is talking to you and the lights are on, only Foxy and Chica will be active, making it very easy for the first 2 in-game hours. Once 2 a.m. strikes, the power goes out for the first time, and it will come back on at 3 a.m. During this time, still only Foxy and Chica are active, and Chica will really only attack 1, maybe 2 times at most. Only after the lights come back on at 3 a.m. will Bonnie become active and start attacking. Once again at 4 a.m. the power will turn back off, wherein it will never turn back on for the remaining 2 hours of the night. So you get time to get a feel for the lights being off by only having to deal with Chica, who moves far slower than Bonnie does, and then they ease you into dealing with both of them at the same time. I think this is such a good way of introducing such a debilitating mechanic. It doesn't feel like this game is just prying open my asshole and filling it with its saliva. It's properly teaching the mechanic without directly making you feel like it's teaching you. This is a perfect execution of a mechanic like this, and as much as I hate the lights going out, this game made me hate it probably as little as I possibly could hate it, which I think is pretty cool. But with that new aids out of the way, let's move on to night 4. Night 4 is an interesting night, and another night that really shows off how wonderful this game is at introducing mechanics to you. With me just talking about how well the light function was introduced, this night has a brand new character so heinous, yet the developer was able to introduce them in a nice way, or at least as nice as possible considering how much this guy sucks. Night 4 introduces Freddy, the big kahuna himself. The role he plays is both very simple and the most terrifying at the exact same time. His goal is, of course, to get into your office. However, the way he does so is what makes him so scary. Unlike Bonnie and Chica, who wander around the building and then enter your office, when Freddy appears from a door, he will make a beeline directly for your office with no stops along the way. And Freddy is fast. Very, very fast. Freddy's music will start playing during the times he can attack. During the music, you'll hear him laugh. When he does laugh, that's how you'll know when he's about to open a door. So you'd better drop everything you're doing to focus on him, because once he exits one of the doors, you have approximately 6 seconds to deal with him before he starts digging in your butt. Now, I mentioned they introduced Freddy very nicely. How exactly did they do that? Well, Freddy activates while the lights are off on this night, so that's not very kind. However, during this Freddy attack section, both Bonnie and Chica will not be moving around, so this entire moment is spent focusing on Freddy as you understand how he works. Again, another beautiful execution of a mechanic like this. I dislike when FNAF games introduce a mechanic while everything else is happening with no explanation of how the character works. I think having the player figure it out on their own can be a good thing, but not while everything else is happening at the same time. Wonderful integration, but it makes me very scared for Night 5. Speaking of, let's move on to that. Night 5 overall doesn't add anything new. In general, it's just a much harder version of Night 4, and I'll explain why. Remember how I said that this game did a really good job of teaching the Freddy mechanic? Yeah, well on Night 5, let's just say they're not so nice. There are 2 blackouts on Night 5. The first is very kind. It lasts 60 seconds and consists only of Freddy, just like Night 4. That made me think for a moment, just a moment, this game was about to be very kind. But boy, was I wrong. The second blackout happens at 5 a.m. and runs throughout the final hour. During this final blackout, all 4 of the characters are active, and it's by far the most stressful section this game has ever had. I was skilled and based enough to beat it on my second attempt, but that's only because I'm literally the hunky chiseled god. 2 additional things to talk about on this night. The first is that it reveals another Freddy mechanic. That being, he can attack while the lights aren't out as well, except there is a big difference. Something you'll notice about Bonnie and Chica is that Bonnie is significantly faster than Chica is. During the lights out sections, Freddy will be Bonnie's speed, which is why he's so scary. But while the lights are on, Freddy will move at Chica's speed, still making him a big threat since he goes right for your office, but also makes him easier to deal with. The last thing I want to talk about before we continue is Golden Freddy. During my playthrough of Night 5, which you can see over on my second channel, Dxtr Black, I actually had Golden Freddy appear. He appears in your office, and I didn't dare look at him with the office camera, but you can see I was looking at him through one of the party rooms. But with that, that's all Night 5 has to offer. I assumed there would be some form of cutscene after completing it, but no. I was not so lucky. Instead, we're just thrown right into Night 6, where I'm sure we'll have just a perfect happy-go-lucky time. So turns out it wasn't actually a Night 6. Upon walking to your desk to start the night, you're greeted to the extra screen where you can play any of the previous nights again, do a custom night, a real-time night, and do 5 unique challenges. So as far as we're concerned, that's all FNAF Showtime has to offer. I'm just kidding. Of course we're going to talk about the challenge modes. So let's quickly go over the first and most boring one of them all, Blackout. As the name suggests, the entire night has the power out. So say hello to Usain Bolt Freddy pile driving your rear from the back for the entire night. Not a very interesting challenge mode, but definitely a challenge mode nonetheless. The next challenge is called Find the Cupcakes, my personal favorite challenge mode, and you'll never guess what it is we have to do on this night. Throughout the cameras, 10 cupcakes will be hidden. All you have to do is find each of them and reset them to collect them. The only threat active on this night is Chica, which makes sense since it is her cupcake, but I do feel it makes this challenge far too easy. I think having all the characters active but at lower AI values would make this challenge much more interesting. This next challenge we're going to talk about is very, very evil. Like, think of the most evil thing you could possibly imagine, right? Think about it. Think of its shadow, right? Start with like a shadow, just got like a shadow ball, and now mold that shadow. Put it between your fingers, let it slide like you're making some clay bowl in art class in 5th grade, right? Shape it into the most annoying, fucking terrifying piece of garbage you can possibly think of. Is the shadow you molded the shape of Balloon Boy? Because if it is, you guessed this challenge night perfectly. This challenge is called Camera Problems, and I bet you can take a perfect guess as to what that means. During this night, while all characters are active, Balloon Boy will occasionally, and very frequently I might add, cause one of the cameras to break. When he breaks a camera, he himself will be present in the room of that camera and you'll have to reset him. But how do you do that if you can't access the camera? Well, you'll have to find him in that room from another camera and reset him through that one. And Balloon Boy, we all know him, is just an asshole. Piece of shit, smelly ass, goofy ass, shitty ass, pissy ass, farty ass, sharty ass, stupid ass, dumb ass, bitch ass, dunce ass, fuck ass boy. This is an incredibly difficult challenge, and I love that a new character was created specifically for it. I think that's really cool. The next challenge is called Above and Below, and did something I would have never expected. All it does is add a brand new character alongside all of the other ones we've already been having to deal with, that character being Mangle, who is by far the most terrifying character of them all. You'll notice that above each employee door, you'll also find a vent. These vents are where Mangle comes from. And the challenge from Mangle comes from both her being on the ceiling and by being the fastest character in the entire game, even outspeeding Bonnie and Freddy. That's all this challenge is, but holy shit, Mangle is so fucking fast and it makes this challenge one of the hardest. But I still don't think it's quite harder than Balloon Boy's. The next challenge is called Divided Attention, and you'll be able to guess exactly what this night is going to offer the moment you load into it. That being the fact that you can hear a music box. And if you check the prize corner, you'll see a small music box on the counter. That's right. This challenge just adds another fucking Foxy to constantly look after. Isn't that just fucking amazing? Yeah. Needless to say, I'd like to move on as fast as possible. But with that, that's all of the challenges that FNAF Showtime has to offer. And overall, I think FNAF Showtime is an incredible game. Even though there are only 4 characters throughout the main night sections, this game proves to be one of the most difficult I've ever played. Learning how to track the characters and prioritizing them is exceptionally difficult, but it's so cool. The original FNAF lore, arguably one of the most confusing and frustrating pieces of media ever created, with several retcons, horrendous retellings, frustrating timeline and universe splits, and so many other headaches. Five Nights at Freddy's definitely has a reputation for pretty terrible storytelling, but that's where fan-made remix can come into play. Today, we'll be covering a game called Five Nights at Freddy's Rewritten 87, a remake of Five Nights at Freddy's 2, which is undoubtedly the FNAF game that started the trend of, let's just make the lore of our game as confusing as possible. FNAF Rewritten serves to retell the same story that FNAF 2 did, but in a more concise and enjoyable way, while also making the core gameplay loop of the game better than the original dumpster fire that was FNAF 2 and its gameplay loop. I hope you're excited, because we've got a lot to talk about today. So grab a pet, grab some snacks, and join me today as we dive into the creatively amazing world of FNAF Rewritten 87. FNAF Rewritten 87 opens with a playable cutscene. We see Spring Bonnie standing in front of us. He calls us Gabriel, the child in the Freddy suit, and tells us to follow him. As we walk through the opening credits, we stumble upon a door. We, very creepily, I will add, see Spring Bonnie open the door, only to see Freddy sitting on the table. Oh my god. Walking inside, we get snatched up and stuffed inside of the suit. Who could have seen that one coming? Upon waking up, surprisingly not dead, or actually, who knows, maybe we are actually dead and we're just seeing through our soul at this point, we watch as Freddy and the other characters perform on stage, knowing that there is at least one dead child in one of them. However, I think we can infer that there are probably children inside of Bonnie and Chica as well. We learn about the restaurant shutting down and being bought by a bigger company, only for the whole franchise to be remodeled with safety in mind. Afterwards, we're dropped straight into night 1. However, it doesn't begin in the way that most FNAF games begin. This time around, we actually start in a 3D environment, being able to walk around and explore the building to our heart's desires. Except that's a fucking lie because we can't go where Mangle and the puppet are. What? Oh my fucking god. And we can't go into the back rooms. Curiously enough, the only 2 places I really wanted to go, so that was a bit of a bummer. Hearing the phone ringing, we walk into the back office and really begin the night. Phone guy gives us the typical boring speech nobody really cares about. Let's start talking about what the game changes from the original. I'm sure you could already guess, but this game's building is set up a lot differently than the original. To start, let's talk about the kitchen. The kitchen replaces one of the party rooms from the original, and actually there are plenty of employees-only areas throughout the building that connect various areas. For example, using employee-only hallways, you can walk from the kitchen to the back room, which, yes, you still cannot enter from this angle either. I know, disappointing. These new locations aren't necessarily important per se, but I do think that they're a very nice touch and serve to make this game feel reminiscent of FNAF 2 without just being a direct copy of it, and I like that. The tools at our disposal, however, are exactly the same. Flashlight, cameras, Freddy mask. However, the flashlight does work a bit differently from the original, but I'll explain that more once we start talking about a certain fat bastard. So, who are the threats introduced on this night? Well, to start, of course, we have Toy Bonnie, and Toy Chica, and Toy Freddy. Okay, so this game definitely lays a lot on you. Not that that's a bad thing. If anything, it's a good thing because it gives me more to talk and complain about in this video and gives you guys a longer video because of that. Let's start with Toy Bonnie, the worst character to ever walk the face of the earth. Toy Bonnie does exactly what he does in the original. He'll make his way through the building and into your right vent. Where do you think you're going? Oh my fucking god, dude. Once you see him in your office, put the Freddy mask on, and you'll get to watch him crip walk into your office. The animations in this game, by the way, are really awesome, so get used to it. Toy Chica, while being the hottest character I've ever seen in my life, is pretty much the same as she is in the original. She struts around, my jaw drops like a cartoon character, and my eyes pop out whenever I see her, and my tongue comically falls to the floor, and she makes her way to your left vent. Oh my god, come here, bro. However, before she does, you can see her in the hallway, and literally watch her fent walk into the party room. Seriously, look at the way she initially bends backwards to start walking. That's disgusting. Anyways, once you see her in your vent, put the Freddy mask on. However, unlike the original where she just disappears, much like FNAF 2 Reimagined, Chica does actually come out of the vent like Toy Bonnie and stares into your eyes for a bit. While most people would just wait for her to leave, I actually toss around the thought of taking the mask off and allowing her to start digging in me. I could talk about my attraction to Toy Chica for days on end, but let's move on to talking about the final threat this night introduces, Toy Freddy. The fat ass, whale ass, elephant ass, hippopotamus ass, dump truck ass, island in the ocean ass, massive ass, gargantuan ass, obese ass, folds on folds ass, looking fat ass, fucking fat ass robot. Toy Freddy. Toy Freddy, Toy Freddy, while morbidly obese, if you weren't aware, is actually the first character in this game to do something completely different from the original, which I actually think is really great. A problem I have with FNAF 2 is the amount of characters that all do the same thing. While you could argue that Withered Freddy is supposed to be the main character for FNAF 2, given the fact his face is on the icon, I actually think Toy Freddy is a better fit for the main character, just given the environment the game takes place in and the overall theming of the game. And to have your main character do something as boring as Toy Freddy does, aka just walk through the hall and appear in your office, it just feels so boring and lazy. Toy Freddy in this game is actually just an asshole. If you look on your camera map, you will see 4 cameras that have a thick green ring around them. These cameras each have a breaker box inside of them. Occasionally, Toy Freddy will laugh, signifying that he's about to do something devious like putting his hand in the cookie jar, only to find out that it's empty because his sausage finger ass already put his hand in the cookie jar 36 other times today. When you hear him laugh, he'll appear next to any one of these 4 breaker boxes. You'll have to quickly find which one he appeared at and flash your camera light at him and he'll go away. He's afraid of the light, which would make sense given his build. I'm willing to bet he's the type of guy to sit in the dark at his computer all day playing a World of Warcraft, League of Legends, Valorant, or something really niche like EverQuest. So light being his weakness makes total sense. Also, we know this fat ass plays games all day and does nothing else because playing a video game is literally his mechanic in Ultimate Custom Night. This is canon, guys. He's a fat piece of shit. Scott confirmed it. He actually called me last week to tell me, quote, "Hey yo dog, Toy Freddy is a fat piece of shit, you feel me?" And I was like, fuck yeah dog, I feel you. Anyways, moving on to the last thing I want to talk about before we move on to night 2. The way the camera in this office controls. There's no other real way to describe it except fucking awful. It just feels really bad and awkward to control. It lags behind your mouse, which I'm pretty sure was intentional, but it just feels off. I was trying to click Toy Freddy's nose in my playthrough, which you can see over on my second channel, Dxtr Black, and I just literally couldn't get the camera to stop freaking the fuck out while I was trying to do so. On top of that, there's this weird stutter it has when you go near the vents. You'll go to click on a vent to shine your light at it, but before you can, for no reason the camera will just stutter and move even more, even if your mouse isn't moving. It's goofy. I know I nitpick a lot in these videos, but I think controls are something that should be nitpicked. That needs to be nailed. Remember how I said that was the last thing I wanted to talk about before moving on to night 2? Well, I lied. There's actually 2 more things I want to mention. First, I forgot to say the music box is still a thing. And I'm not going to harp on it too much. You guys know how I feel about music boxes. AIDS, poop, and balls. There. The other thing I want to mention is what happens after you beat night 1. You'll get tossed back into the POV of Gabriel standing on stage as Bonnie and Chica perform around you. Hi, 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 hi. Hi, 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 hi. Hi, 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 hi. Hi, 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 hi. Hi, hi. Hi, 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 hi. Hi, 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 hi. Eventually, they stop performing and just stare at you, which is very uncomfortable, especially Chica. Chica's model in this game is like really fucking gross and uncomfortable to look at, so I didn't like that too much. It looks like she doesn't brush her teeth for a living. Eventually, the puppet appears in front of us, the curtains close, and we're booted into night 2. Night 2 starts by allowing you to walk around the building yet again. However, this time, we're actually allowed to go inside the arcade room. And of course, if you couldn't take a guess, there is an arcade machine that we're able to play. In this minigame, we play as a fucking drill car, which is pretty riz. We have to drive around and pop several balloons across the map. After we're done, an exit door will appear and we can end the minigame. However, if you know anything about FNAF minigames, then you'd know there has to be a secret in here somewhere. And a secret there is. After collecting all the balloons, if instead of going into the exit door you continue, you'll find a glitched wall. Driving into it will put you into a normal car. After a bit of driving, we stumble across one of the pizzerias with a crying child outside. Getting out of the car, you'll notice we're playing as Afton. We walk up to the child and presumably murder it, only for the puppet to appear in the reflection of the game, telling us that if we go deeper, it will stop us. Whatever that means. With that, another exit door appears and we're free to leave and continue the night as usual. After that, there's nothing more to do than walk into the office and talk about what new threats this night introduces. And the first threat we'll talk about is Withered Foxy. Nothing much interesting to say about this guy. He works in the exact same way as the original. He'll appear in your hallway every now and then, and all you have to do is flash him a bunch and he'll go away. One thing I do want to mention about him and why I actually like him in this game more than the original is because you flash him with your mouse, which means my poor little control key won't fucking explode. And actually, because you have to use your mouse to flash Foxy, you can actually spam the hallway a lot faster and make him leave sooner. So that's pretty great. The other threat introduced on this night is Mangle, who is probably the most interesting character we've seen so far and is probably the most interesting character in the entire game. Mangle's goal is to get into your office through the main hallway. She doesn't enter the right vent like in the original. Mangle is a very stressful character to deal with. Let me explain why. Once Mangle enters your office, she'll go to your ceiling, but this does not mean she's attacking you yet. While she's on your ceiling, very loud gurgling sounds will be heard, and the TV monitors in your office will start flashing static, Mangle, and the puppet, interestingly enough. After a bit of this, Mangle will drop her head down from the ceiling. At this time, you must put your mask on. Mangle will stay with her head down for a very long time, like much longer than you think she would. Eventually, she'll pull her head back up, but the attack isn't over quite yet. The screens will start to go all nutty again, and during this time, you're allowed to check on things you need to check on, like the music box, Toy Freddy, and Withered Foxy. Soon after, Mangle will drop her head down a second time, requiring you to put the mask on again. After she leaves for the second time, she will finally leave your office, and her attack is finally over. Mangle is easily one of, if not the most stressful character to deal with in this entire game. And one of the main reasons I feel this way is because of her synergy with Toy Freddy. Toy Freddy makes a laughing sound cue when he's about to fuck you with your fuse box. Mangle is so goddamn cock-sucking loud that she will most likely drown out his laugh unless you're paying incredibly close attention. So I'm not gonna die just because she's in here. That was Toy Freddy. She synergizes with Toy Freddy. She's loud as shit and drowns him out. But overall, if you can learn her timings, you should be just fine. And in all honesty, from what I noticed, she is pretty forgiving with how much time she gives you to put the mask on after she drops her head. Night 3 time already? Why hello. What goes on tonight? Well, the night starts just like night 2. We can take a walk through the arcade and play another game, except this time around the game in question is fucking dog shit and I didn't beat it because it's bullshit. In it, you play as Bonnie collecting balloons. Who cares about that part? At a certain distance into the sky, you'll see the ceiling is glitching. Jumping into it will turn you into Spring Bonnie and the game gets all dark. Ooh, scary. In this section of the game, you need to grab the 5 kids and put them into what I'm going to assume is the back room where they were killed.
You have to do it one at a time, which really just makes my dick hurt, but whatever. Every time you collect a child, shadow Bonnies will appear around the map for you to dodge. If you touch them, the floor will disappear and you'll have to climb back up. After you collect 4 kids, however, is when this game gets bullshit. Another shadow Bonnie will spawn. However, this one looks way fucking creepier and will actually follow you. The funny part? Well, this shadow Bonnie is faster than you in every way and will literally camp your body, making it borderline impossible to make any progress. Seriously, look at what's happening on screen right now and tell me if this looks like any fun at all. Spoiler alert, it's not. I gave up because I was on the verge of sticking a pencil down my urethra and snapping it in half. However, once you deliver the last kid, an exit door will appear, finishing out the minigame. Afterwards, all you have to do is walk to the office and the night section can begin. Phone Guy talks about how the police may have a lead on a missing children's incident. Who cares? I'm glad they're dead. And he also mentions that the animatronics are getting more aggressive. That part, I do care about. So let's talk about the 2 new threats this night introduces. Withered Bonnie is introduced on this night, and he's one of the coolest characters in the entire game. Not because of what he actually does, he's just a super menacing character and I think that's really cool. Withered Bonnie will attack you through the hall rather than the vent like in the original. The animation is insane, get ready for this. When he's in your hall, he will step out in front of your doorway and stare at you. This is easily one of the creepiest things I've ever seen. Then after a bit of time, he'll step into your office and all you have to do is put the mask on until he goes away. Fucking terrifying. I love it. The other character introduced on this night is my favorite official FNAF animatronic ever designed, Withered Chica. She does, literally, the exact same thing as Withered Bonnie, which I do feel is a little lazy. However, she's so fucking cool and easily the creepiest character in this entire game. Seriously, look at this animation when she's in your office and tell me that's not the creepiest thing you've ever seen. God, I love it so much. But those are the only 2 characters introduced on this night. So far, I do think night 3 is the most boring in terms of what happens. Yes, Mangle is still stressful with Toy Freddy, and I did get the craziest attack combo of all fucking time.
You didn't see me.
Oh my god.
Bitches at every angle! I'm getting railed from every angle. What is this? Hi! You are the most terrifying character in this fucking game. Holy shit. That's badass, dude. Oh my god, and look who's still fucking here.
But in terms of what Night 3 actually brings to the table, I do feel it is a bit lackluster. I know that Toy Bonnie and Toy Chica do the same thing, but at least in a game like FNAF 2 Reimagined, while Bonnie and Chica variants did do the same thing, at least the Withereds and the toys attacked differently from each other. The only thing that's different between the variants this time around is where they come from to get into your office. Night 4. Fuck this. Terrible character introduction. Let's just jump right into it. To begin, of course, we walk through the arcade and play yet another minigame. That is, unless you're me. Since I didn't complete the bullshit minigame from Night 3, I couldn't play the minigame on Night 4. Had I known that was going to be the case, I would have forced myself to beat Night 3's minigame. But fuck me, I guess I'm locked out of all the minigames for the rest of my playthrough. But what actually happens in this minigame? Well, I'm honestly glad I never did play this minigame because it appears to be just as frustrating as the last. In it, you play as who I think is Mangle. You're tasked with finding 5 balloon boys around the map. Afterwards, you move on to the next round and holy shit! It says there's 20 fucking rounds. I think I'm gonna shoot myself. Luckily for us, actually collecting the balloon boys isn't the real objective. Occasionally, a crying child will appear from the ground, and these are the real characters you want to collect. After collecting your first one, a shadow Bonnie will appear on the map. Touching one will cause the timer at the top of the screen to decrease very quickly, so don't touch them. However, it appears that a crying child spawning only has a small chance to happen every time the map loads, so using them to lose faster to get the level to respawn might actually be an alright strategy for collecting all the kids. Eventually, after collecting a few, as I'm sure you could have already guessed, Spring Dick appears and moves at light speed and camps your body for the rest of the fucking minigame, constantly draining your time at a rate faster than your mom drains all the nutrients out of the buffet line. Once you finally collect all of the crying children, the next level will show all the heads of the characters with missing children stuffed inside of them, and an exit door will appear. Something I noticed specifically about the Golden Freddy head is just how hard it is to see in comparison to the other masks. I'm sure this has some sort of symbolism, but I'm just playing the game, bro. You figure it out. Anyways, after touching the exit door, you walk to the office and it's time for the night section to begin. This night introduces 2 new threats. Let's start with the threat that is so annoying you'll want to light your PC on fire and then throw it in a river. Balloon Boy. Balloon Boy has somehow been made even more annoying than in the original. Except not annoying as in his mechanics, that's actually easier than the original. I mean, his laugh is so much fucking worse. The way he works is pretty simple. He'll attack through either of your vents. Instead of putting the mask on like in the original, you'll instead have to spam flash your light at him. Do that enough and he'll eventually literally run away like a little baby pissed diarrhea boy. Obviously, if you don't, he jumps into your office, steals your shit, and Foxy will fuck you since you won't be able to flash him. The other character introduced on this night is Withered Freddy. What does he do? Well, let me tell you, I have no fucking idea. What do you mean you have no idea, Dxtr? Didn't you play the game? Yes, I did. However, this series and this Dxtr White video specifically, I wanted to try something a little different in the video creation process. Typically, after I finish recording a black series, if I think the game was worthy of a white video, I'll put it on my white list. Depending on how much I either liked or disliked the game, will determine how high up on the list the game will go. And when it comes time to script a Dxtr White video, I choose the video at the top of the list and write the entire script in one sitting. I feel this leads to the beginnings of my scripts being really hard to get into, and I feel that it also makes the amount of energy I have near the end of the script drop off. So I thought for this game I'd try something new. After recording each Dxtr Black video on this game, I would write the script specifically for that section. That way, I'm not writing a lot in one sitting and I get a fresh reset every day, which I've noticed has been making me a lot happier with the script in general. However, this does bring up an interesting issue that I've only noticed now while writing and talking about Night 4. While yes, Withered Freddy was introduced, for some reason, he literally never attacked me once throughout the entire night. So I quite literally have no idea what he does and I can't really talk about it. So, this is a little awkward. I'm gonna consult the wiki real quick. Just give me a second. Let me just, 87, okay, and Night 4. Okay, here we go. We just we'll go to the side of the hallway on that. Well, fuck. I really thought he was gonna do something cool, but no. He does the exact same thing as Withered Bonnie and Withered Chica. Just walks to your hall and eventually goes into your office where you have to put the mask on. Damn it, I really thought they'd do something interesting with this guy, and it's honestly really disappointing that they didn't. I had Withered Freddy appear in my hall multiple times throughout my Night 4 playthrough. However, never once did he attempt to step into my office. If I had to guess why, I'd say it's probably because when he was in the hallway, every other character at the same time decided to be there or be in my office. Oh my god, fucking party in the hallway! Party in the hallway! Let's just fucking not do this. Party in the fucking office! Hello everybody at the same fucking time. Hi guys, fuck off. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. We're at Night 5 already? What a nice, totally calm and non-stressful ride it's been so far, right? Yeah, no, not really, but let's continue. To start, of course, we have another minigame to talk about, and this one is by far the most frustrating and annoying one yet. In it, we play as the puppet, tasked with giving gifts and then giving life, just like the original. However, unlike the original, where the minigame was quick and easy, this minigame is long and painful. You can see several balloons going from side to side across the screen. You can move along the top of the screen as well, and you're supposed to drop down on the crying children to give them their gift. However, you can't touch the balloons or the balloon boys at the bottom of the screen or you will be reset to the top. Can you see where this is going? This minigame relies on luck, and you just fucking waiting for a good opening to drop down. And get this, as it goes on, it gets even worse. Every time you get a gift, a shadow Bonnie will appear in the balloons. These shadow Bonnies will move around and literally push the fucking balloons when they touch them, making the waiting for timings part even more fucking annoying. And you have plenty of them in this game. This game can take several minutes depending on your luck. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if it took someone over 15 minutes to complete this bullshit. After giving the gift to the last kid, the screen goes dark and we're told to give life, putting the character masks on each of the children, with the puppet eerily watching in the background. After giving life, the puppet goes on a 2-decade rant. She gets upset that we keep playing these games, learning what happened to the children, even at its attempts to stop us. She says she has to kill us because apparently us knowing will make them truly die. She says this because obviously she gave them life in the forms of the animatronics. But I'd argue to say that this is a fate even worse than death, Miss fucking Puppet. And I'm willing to bet that freeing the kids and letting them actually die is miles better than having them live in the place where they fucking died for the rest of eternity. So hop off my dick. Before we jump into the next section, there's something I want to mention that I found while roaming around this night. Well, actually 3 things. The first is just how many fucking puppet plushies have been accumulating around the building. Like, there are literally so many of them. The next thing I want to mention is that it was this night that I found you can knock Balloon Boy over, which has probably now become my favorite part of this game. Oh my god, I can knock his stupid ass over. And finally, the real big thing I wanted to talk about is something I found in one of the party rooms. Please, can someone tell me, what the fuck is this thing? There is an endoskeleton you can find in one of the party rooms. I don't know if it's here every night or just this one since I never checked, but tell me, who the fuck is this supposed to be? It never moves and you can't interact with it, but I just thought I'd point this out in case anybody can tell me what the hell this thing is. Anyways, how about we talk about the actual night section now? There's not much to talk about in terms of new threats, but there is something pretty interesting. At the end of the puppet's monologue, she said that tonight would be different than the nights before. She said that we've done a good job stopping her, but not tonight. The puppet gains a new form of attack on this night, and it is so fucking annoying. Remember all those shadow Bonnies that are life-ruining from the minigames? Yeah? Well, now they're in the night segments. Have fun, asshole. They show up on your cameras. Several of them, like a fuck ton of them, will appear. They will block your camera buttons, your flashlight button, and your music box wind button. When you click on one of them, they will go away. But if there's even one of them just barely touching the button with their head, their foot, their hand, even just gently plopping the tip of their dick right on top of one of your buttons, you won't be able to interact with it until you get rid of them. And you better believe that when you hear Toy Freddy's fat ass laugh, your blood pressure is gonna spike to 12K as you try to remove all these little fucking shadow bitches from the camera. Oh my god. But that really is the only new thing added to this night. Of course, this night is much harder than night 4, and yes, it's still just as overwhelming with characters constantly jumping all over your shit and grinding in your office constantly throughout the entire night. Thank you for asking. Night 6 time! Holy fucking shit, is there a lot to talk about here. I was honestly expecting this video to be close to 20 minutes, but nope. We're going way over today. So, it was at this moment I learned that in order to play Night 6, I had to beat all the minigames from the previous nights. Fuck me. So, I did that, and now here we are. This night begins with a cutscene, talking about what I can only assume to be the bite of 87. Or the bite of 83? I think this one is 83, I'm pretty sure. I literally don't know the FNAF lore at all, it's so fucking awful. In this cutscene, we play as Jeremy Fitzgerald, going into a play area to retrieve a Freddy plushie. Of course, this play area is where Mangle is kept, and it's at this moment we notice that Mangle has the toy in her mouth. Attempting to go get it, she crawls away into the slide. Following behind her, she goes down the slide and we lose sight of her, only to see that she's placed the toy in a very convenient spot.
Ooh, convenient.
Going to grab the toy, Mangle swoops down on us like a pedophile in the park and bites the shit out of us, killing us instantly. Jeremy is then fished up by Old Man Consequences. He explains how people who have died unfairly don't get reeled up to the surface and are forced to stay underneath the ocean until they get peace. Even though we as Jeremy died unfairly, he explains that he made an exception for us because we died due to the supernatural. He also knows that we haven't finished what we started. This conversation with him goes on for a very long time, so let's just skip to the interesting part. We come back to the building. Of course, we're playing as Michael, not Jeremy. Just wanted to make that clear in case anyone was confused as to what was going on. We are indeed Michael Afton in this game. We enter through the back of the building through a vent and go to walk back to the office. However, before we do that, I want to point out that for some reason, Toy Freddy is not on stage and is instead standing in the same party room we saw that weird endoskeleton in previously. Oh, and of course, there's yet another minigame to play. Heading into the arcade, we can begin. This time we play as Chica and we have to bring a bunch of cupcakes to a table. You'll notice that this time around, there is a lack of Shadow Bonnies. That is, until you collect all the cupcakes. If you head up afterwards, you'll see the stick figure Jeremy pointing you towards a wall. Walking into it, we get teleported to a room with several platforms. It's in this room where the big bitch Shadow Bonnie is present. If he touches you, you get teleported back to the cupcake table and will have to come back. In this big platform room, there are characters from every other minigame you've seen so far, retrieving one of the missing children from each, giving them gifts, and then finally giving them life once more. The puppet tells us we need to stay out of its way, and an exit door appears for us to leave. Candy Cadet thought it'd be a great idea to block my fucking path to the office. He speaks to us, but it almost seems as though the puppet is speaking to us through him, given exactly what he says to us.
Congratulations, Michael.
Oh, hey, Candy.
You won a free story. No coins required.
Why do you know my name? Hey, Candy Cadet.
Michael, you should have never come back.
Oh.
I told you to leave us alone.
Oh, is that the fucking marionette?
I'm happy. We are all happy. Do not try to take them away.
You're not all
Jeremy
happy.
tried. You do not want to be like Jeremy. Right, Michael?
Oh yeah, Jeremy got bit.
If you answer that phone, if you listen to Jeremy, I will have to stop you. I know there is good in you. I know you are sorry. Please leave.
Oh, okay. You can't stop me, bro.
After this, we find a different way to the office, and the night begins. Nothing new to talk about here, it's just a harder version of Night 5. That is, until we see a certain shadow rabbit in our cameras and the building goes dark. The lights come back on, and the phone begins to ring. Every camera has too many balloons on it, and our Freddy mask has been replaced by a foxy one. There's no better way for me to explain to you what happens next. It's much better if you just watch for yourself.
Michael, I know you're in it. Know what you've done, Michael. Brother is dead, Michael. You killed him. What were you even doing? You really think this is that much? I'm the one sick with nothing insulting enough. My son is dead, Michael. People pity you. And those who don't pity me are blaming me. Have to talk on my dream. The little face of my restaurant. So many are going to think I failed. They'll think something's broken or wrong with my work. His machine killed me. Did he not prioritize safety? I'm sorry! I need to account for my idiot son shoving his little brother down its mouth! I have to my parents. I need people to know this was your horseplay that caused this. It was no fault of mine. You are almost an adult. You deserve to take full accountability for this. All of it. You know, I'll never let go of this, Michael. You've ruined my life. I'm going to tear yours apart.
So, Michael has an episode, and Mangle is able to slip into the office and attack him. But hold up. What if I told you Mangle didn't get him? Michael comes too. He survived by jumping into one of the vents. Now it's time for us to make our grand escape. We crawl through the vents into the kitchen where we see withered Chica. Fucking terrifying, by the way. Sneaking around her, we enter the hallway and a chase with Withered Freddy begins, Withered Bonnie following close behind as well. We run through the back room, interestingly seeing that weird endoskeleton from before, but we don't really have time to focus on that. We close the door to the back room, but it's not long before Withered Foxy starts to chase us as well. Getting into the main party room, a sign falls and blocks Foxy from being able to get us. We try to run to the exit, only for two balloon boys to block the way. Before we can think of what to do, the puppet jumps out of her box and yet another chase occurs. Choosing to run to the emergency exit, Toy Freddy blocks our path. Running back into the main hallways, Toy Bonnie and Chica spot us and the chase continues. Running down the hall, Mangle falls from the ceiling as we make a sharp left into the arcade room. Exiting, Toy Freddy greets us on the other side and we make it to the exit. Fenced off, we seemingly have nowhere to go. Hearing the puppet pounding on the door behind us, we jump behind some pizza boxes to hide. As the puppet breaks her way outside, the sound of police sirens can be heard as the puppet cowers and hides before she can be seen. We look down at the logbook we took, previously owned by Jeremy, and Five Nights at Freddy's Rewritten 87 comes to a close. While yes, this is where the main story ends, there's still something super interesting I want to talk about, and that is this game's extras menu, which actually isn't even a menu. It's basically just a 3D environment you can roam around and explore. The reason I want to talk about it, well, you can re-enter the pizzeria to explore, and around it you can find several Faz tokens. Using these tokens, you can go to the arcade room and have Candy Cadet tell you a story. The story he tells consists of an infamous cave in the woods that everybody is afraid to enter. One day, a child stumbles upon it, and a beast convinces him to go inside the cave with him. The child never exits the cave. Several children entered the cave and never returned. A sorcerer found the cave with the children and banished the beast from inside, locking all the children in the cave with a seal, keeping them safe inside from the beast that trapped them there. The children had the desire to leave, but the sorcerer couldn't let them without breaking the seal and letting the beast back inside. If it wasn't obvious, this story is obviously a metaphor for the missing children's incident. The cave is Freddy's, the beast is William, and the sorcerer is the puppet. This little extra thing you can do with Candy Cadet is honestly super fun, and I think it's such a unique thing to add to an extras menu. Finding these tokens and discovering this story is such a fun experience, and you can see me do it over on my second channel, Dxtr Black. But with that, as far as I'm aware, that is all FNAF Rewritten 87 has to offer. Overall, I think this game is nothing short of a masterpiece. It does a great job at making FNAF 2 feel like the overwhelming game Scott originally wanted it to be. The way the story is told is incredible, the graphics and animations are phenomenal, I love the character redesigns, and I really enjoy the mechanical changes where there were some. I would highly recommend you give this game a try, you will not regret it. One of my favorite genres of games is roguelikes. I also, as I'm sure you could have guessed, really like Five Nights at Freddy's games. I've only built a whole career off of it, so I'm sure you could have figured that out. So I bet you can imagine my pleasant surprise when I was told that there was a Five Nights at Freddy's game that was also a roguelike. The moment I learned of this, I downloaded it as fast as I could and started filming videos because I just knew even before playing it that it was going to be getting a Dxtr White video, and here we are now. You guys know what game I'm talking about. You can see the length of this video. I very clearly like this game a lot. So sit back, relax, and join me as we dive into the chaotic world of Too Many Nights. Unlike most FNAF games, Too Many Nights doesn't follow any storyline or the typical FNAF formula. Instead, it acts as an endless minigame that doesn't stop until you fail. Although I'm sure you already knew that considering everyone on Earth has played a roguelike before. At the start of each run, you will get to pick a character, of which there are many. Each character gives you a different set of abilities, with each having a list of pro and cons. You don't start with all of them and will have to gradually unlock them by doing specific tasks. I'll go over them in a bit. After picking a character, you will have to select 3 animatronics to put into the pizzeria, and this is where this game gets brilliant. You get to choose 3 animatronics yourself. The game will never choose them for you, and your initial choices will be random at the start of each run. However, if you really don't like your starting options, you can press R to reroll your first pick as much as you'd like. As I'm sure you could have guessed, there are several animatronics in Too Many Nights. Each has a unique mechanic, and it will be up to you to plan out which animatronics you bring along, and control how they will be forced to interact with each other. Each animatronic falls into a certain category. You have your door animatronics, your camera animatronics, your mask animatronics, your vent animatronics, your flashlight animatronics, and what I'm going to call your nuisance animatronics. Each of these categories serves its own purpose, and generally speaking, picking multiple animatronics from the same category will make your gameplay experience easier. Before I really start talking about the characters, I'd like to explain the rest of the experience of a run. To start, after selecting your first 3 animatronics, the run will begin. After completing a night, you will be forced to add 1 new character. Every few nights, you will also be forced to add a penalty. These penalties fall into 2 categories: your general penalties and your character penalties. I'll dive into each of these later as well. After selecting a penalty, you may get the chance to go to the shop and buy some items. Throughout the night, you will gain Faz coins from successfully defending yourself from the animatronics. Once again, I will get into these items later. Keep repeating this process until you eventually die, and boom, that's the gameplay loop of Too Many Nights. Of course, that was a very oversimplified explanation. So now we're going to dive into each of the animatronics, how they work, and to keep it interesting, I'll even throw each character into a tier list so that you can all argue about it in the comments. I'm just going to go down the list that appears on the wiki, and be prepared, there are a lot of animatronics. Editor, I'd say I'm sorry for what you're about to have to do, but that would be a lie. Let's go. Freddy is a camera animatronic, aka my personal least favorite type of animatronic. Freddy will start on stage and make his way towards your right door. All you have to do is occasionally stare at him on the cameras to make him go backwards. I'm sure you can guess why I'm not going to like a majority of these camera animatronics. If he ever reaches your door, he will never leave, and you'll be forced to keep it closed for the rest of the night or die. Freddy also has 5 penalties that have the option to be chosen when you have to select a penalty. The first is Mad Freddy, which will make you have to look at Freddy longer to make him go backwards. His second penalty is Branched, which gives him a chance to be able to attack your left door as well. And when you're playing this game, you will very quickly fall into a pattern, so having a character be able to switch up on you like this would very obviously throw you off. Stare Down is another Freddy penalty. This one is horrific. It makes Freddy never move backwards. Staring at him will only stall him. However, to compensate, he moves a lot slower, and the camera doesn't have to be up for you to be able to stall him. Invisifreddy is a penalty that I'm sure you could take a solid guess at what it does. That's right, it makes him fucking invisible. Isn't that great? Sure, a sound cue is added to his movements, but fuck that. That just sounds like AIDS. Finally, we have Nuh-uh, a penalty that's just so silly. When Freddy gets to your door, he will prevent the door from ever closing again throughout the rest of the night. Isn't that awesome? No, it isn't? Yeah, I know. Don't choose this one if you can help it. Overall, I'm not a fan of Freddy, but without penalties, he isn't the worst character in this game, so I'm going to give him a C tier. Bonnie is a door character, aka a character I usually like to pick. Bonnie starts on stage and makes his way to your left door. Once there, a sound cue will play, and you'll have to close the door and stare at him on the camera until he goes away. Then you can open the door again. Incredibly easy character, however he does have 3 penalties. Cutting is a penalty that makes both Bonnie and Chica take shorter paths to your doors. Because of how easy both of them are to deal with, this penalty isn't too bad. Quiet Steps makes Bonnie and Chica not make sound cues while at your door, so yeah, fuck that. No other words need to be said. And finally, Flip Side is a penalty that will make Bonnie and Chica swap doors immediately after leaving the first door. Easily the second worst penalty these two have. Speaking of Bonnie and Chica, Chica is literally identical to Bonnie, except she attacks the right door instead of the left. And because of this, and how quick I am to pick these two, I'm putting both of them in S tier. Foxy isn't the worst character I've seen, but I did avoid choosing him for a very long time. Foxy will try to leave his stage in the ticket booth. Have your camera on him to stall him. If you don't, he'll charge at your door and bang on it, and make you lose a poop sock full of power. Foxy has 3 penalties and 1 item, which is pretty cool. Insta-Foxy is a penalty that will cause Foxy to instantly start in his last phase at the start of a night. This penalty actually isn't that bad at all, just let him charge right away and it's like the penalty isn't even there anymore. Hen House is a penalty that forces the camera to be up to stall Foxy, which actually is the most cancerous thing I've ever heard of. Haywire is the final penalty, which will make him attack your other door directly after attacking the first door. The only bad part about this is that him banging on your door drains power. And the item that Foxy has is called Good Guy, which makes Foxy not a threat. Looking at him will make him progress, and when he comes to your office, he'll give you a nice little gift like a good boy. Because of how much of a non-issue he is if you balance him properly with the other characters, I'm putting him in B tier. Mangle is a vent animatronic, and she's honestly not that big of a problem. She'll move through the cameras into one of your vents. All you have to do is put your mask on when she's in a vent. She will enter the office for a short period and then leave. I personally hate having to use the mask in this game, so I try my best to avoid characters that force that, but Mangle is probably the easiest of them. Mangle does have 3 penalties. Anger Management is a penalty that makes looking at Mangle speed her up. Aggressive Mangle is a penalty that makes Mangle force you to put the mask on for longer. And finally, Slithering In is a penalty that causes looking at Mangle in the vents to make her immediately appear in your office. Overall, I hate the mask mechanic. However, Mangle isn't the worst mask character in the game, so I'm giving her a C tier. Caroline, or the Marionette, behaves exactly how you'd expect her to. She's a music box. Hooray! Who could have expected that? If the music box winds down, for the rest of the night she will randomly teleport to a camera with a sound cue at random intervals. You will have to find her and stare at her if you don't want her to kill you. She does, however, have a whopping 6 fucking penalties, so that's just amazing. Let's go over all of them quickly. Winding down makes you have to wind the music box for longer. Moving box makes the music box move to a random camera every time you pull the camera down. AIDS. Muted music makes her not make a sound cue when she teleports to a camera. Show Stealer gives you less time to find her while she's away from the music box. Last Stand is really ass, by the way. When it turns 6 a.m., Caroline will teleport to a random camera, and the night will only end once you find her.
Dude, there's nothing I can do about that. I can't do anything about that. That's just fucking cooked, bro. I can't do nothing about that.
And finally, the worst penalty yet, Caroline Carousel, which will make her be away from the music box the entire night. Genuinely, never pick this penalty. Caroline is definitely annoying, but in all honesty, the music box is pretty forgiving until much later nights. So, because of this, I'm only putting her in D tier. Lizzie is the first non-FNAF canon character we'll be talking about. Fun fact, there are a lot of non-canon characters, but I think that's what adds to this game's charm. Lizzie herself isn't actually the threat. She spawns down bitty buds in your office while your camera is up. Simply hold your flashlight on them and they'll disappear. If there are too many, they'll call Lizzie and she will then kill you. Lizzie has 2 different penalties as well. Speedy Bud will make the bitty buds call Lizzie to your office faster, and Help Wanted will turn the brightly colored bitty buds into dark colored plush Lizzies, which are much harder to see in the very purple office. Lizzie is one of my favorite characters to see in my runs. I love flashlight characters, and I really love office characters. So because of this, I'm giving her S tier. BB is a bitch, but I'm sure you didn't need me to tell you that. And of course, they gave him the worst mechanic of all time. At random times, he will teleport to a random camera with a sound cue.
Hello?
You will have to find which camera he's on and hold the flashlight on him.
Bye-bye.
If that wasn't bad enough, his penalties make him even worse. Mute BB makes him not make a sound cue, which is actually just fucking torment. Don't pick this. I'm Moving will make him teleport to a second camera after you find him the first time. Little asshole. And Aggressive BB will force you to hold the light on him for longer. Literally, fuck that. I'm sure from the tone in my voice, you can tell I really don't like BB, so because of that, I'm obviously giving him an F tier. Sparky the dog is a camera character that makes me piss blood. He's in the storage room and has 4 phases he will move through before appearing in your office and forcing you to put the mask on for a decently long time. To prevent this, all you have to do is stare at him on the cameras, something I've already made clear I'm not a super huge fan of. He also has 3 penalties if your urine wasn't already red enough. Mad Sparky will force you to look at him on the cameras for longer to push him back. Sparky Speedy will make Sparky move faster, obviously. And Aggressive Sparky will make you put the mask on longer if he enters the office. I don't like camera characters. I hate the idea of staring at a character to stop them. D tier. Percy Poodle, yes, from Playtime with Percy, is easily one of the best characters in the game. Being an office flashlight animatronic, all he does is have multiple phases in front of the big office window. He'll start pounding on the glass in his final phase, and you'll then have to hold the flashlight on him to make him go back. He also only has 2 penalties, and both of them really aren't that bad. Aggressive Percy will make him only go back to his last stage the first time you deal with him, but only the first time, so who cares? And Mute Percy makes him make no sound cue when he's pounding on the glass, so just open your eyes and this won't be a problem. Percy is simple. Percy is always an easy pick. S tier. Rowan Rat, on the other hand, is actual fucking torment. At random times, he will appear in any of the 4 corners of the building. When you see him in one, shock him and he'll go away. You will also have the ability to use a radar to detect where he is and where he's going. Oh yeah, and you only have a certain number of shocks, so that's just terrible. He has 4 possible penalties, and all of them are worse than death. Aggressive Rowan gives you less time to shock him. No radar removes the fucking radar, making you constantly have to check all 4 corners yourself. Less shocks obviously gives you less shocks, as the name would suggest. And Invisi-Rowan makes him fucking invisible. Fuck that. Never in a million years am I picking that shitty option. Rowan by himself isn't the worst, but if you get any of his penalties, which will happen eventually, he becomes a nightmare. So I'm putting him in D tier. Maple is almost a good character, but because it's not the only character you'll be up against, it's hard to find it as an attractive pick. At the beginning of each night, it will require you to collect a certain amount of plushies. This number increases with its AI value. You will then have to search around the cameras for these plushies. If you don't find them all before 6 a.m., it'll kill you. Amazing mechanic, but again, it's not the only one, so it's really just more of a pain in the ass. It does have 3 penalties. What are those? Well, Early Killer will have it check if you have the plushies at 5 a.m. rather than 6. Hidden Counter will literally just make it not tell you how many plushies you need to find, which is bullshit. And Restock will add a timer to how fast you need to find the plushies. If you don't find them in time, it'll re-hide all the plushies again, forcing you to find them all in pretty much one go. Again, it's not the worst, but can easily get out of control on later nights when you start to only focus on certain cameras while it has the large plushie counter. So I'm going to give it a C tier. Noelle is another very interesting character that easily has the chance to be forgotten about. When you start the night, a pair of scissors will appear on a random camera. At complete random, Noelle can appear in the office with a sound cue. When it does, you need to find the scissors and click them to make it go away. The scissors will then teleport to another random camera. If you don't click the scissors, it'll force you to put the mask on for a few seconds, which is a long time in this game. Noelle, of course, has 3 penalties. Pull down will make it forcefully pull down the camera when it enters your office, which could honestly be seen as a good thing. Bro, that's not okay. I fucked myself. Having the force pull down from Noelle mixed with the Roby absolutely fucking creamed my ass, dude. Aggressive Noelle is terrible. When it enters your office, if you click any camera aside from the one with the scissors, it will immediately make you put the mask on. And Crazed Teddy will cause it to insta-kill you instead of putting the mask on. A certain item does affect Noelle, however. If you have Chill Pill, you will get 4 additional seconds to put the mask on when it attacks you, which is a lot of time in this game. I'm not a huge fan of Noelle, especially not when it has aggressive on, so because of this, I'm going to put it in C tier. Melatonin is a real bitch of a character. It moves around the cameras, but it's invisible when it does. You'll hear it laughing in one of your ears, and on the 3rd laugh, you'll have to close the door of whichever side it's on until you hear it leave. It has 2 penalties that just serve as the salt in the wound as well. Switch Up is easily the worst. Before it moves, you'll have to check the dining room to see a counter for how many laughs it'll have before attacking, now being randomized from 2 to 4. Unplanned only makes its first laugh on the correct side, needing you to remember which side it was originally on. I don't like characters that I can't see. I also find it really hard to keep a timer in your head like you need to do with Melatonin, so because of this, I'm putting it in D tier. Lydia is a dog. She'll be in the ticket booth in a fucking cage where she belongs. When you hear her banging on the cage, you'll have to take her out like Ol' Yeller. Just kidding, you actually just have to hold the cage until that dumb mutt shuts up. The wiki, for some reason, doesn't have a page for her, and since I avoided her at all costs, I actually never experienced any of her penalties. But if I had to guess, I'd bet one of them makes you hold her cage for longer, and another makes her not make noise when she's attacking. But going off of how I know her to be with no penalties, I'm going to put her in C tier. Amber is a character that at first didn't seem too bad, but will very quickly become a run killer. She begins at the entrance. At random times, she'll hold up a playing card with a suit on it. You will then have to click the corresponding suit on the cameras or she'll kill you. The 2 penalties she has might actually be the most evil ones in the entire game. Follow suit will give her the ability to have more than 1 card, and 52 pickup will make that number of cards she can hold literally be any number, which is so retarded I can't even begin to explain why you shouldn't pick this, so just don't. I thought Amber would be great, but I very quickly started to avoid her whenever I could. C tier. CG is annoying, a nuisance character, but not very hard to deal with unless you get unlucky. She will randomly move around the cameras, and if you look at her on the cameras for too long, she'll make you put the mask on for a really long time. Her penalties aren't really the worst, however. Aggressive CG will make you put the mask on for longer, and Insta CG will make her enter your office if you look at her, period, even if only for a fraction of a second. However, a monitor is added to your office showing exactly where she is at all times so that you can easily avoid her. There are much worse nuisance characters, and if you don't have any of her penalties, she really isn't a problem. B tier. Dsam, I'm gonna say Sam, is a character I never once chose throughout my playthrough. You may think that makes me a bad reviewer, but I personally think that makes me someone who values not killing myself. Sam will slowly walk back and forth in front of your window with some sound cues. Before he gets to a door, you will have to close it, making him a character you pretty much always have to be watching. He has 2 penalties. Quiet Sam removes his sound cues, and Invisa Sam forces you to only use his sound cues. So pick your poison, dumbass, or even better, just don't pick this character. D tier. Roby is torture. I thought he wouldn't be so bad, and let's just say I wasn't so right. He sits in your office with a timer on his eye. When it reaches 0, you must have your mask on or you will die. He has 2 penalties that are all equally terrible. Mute Roby removes the sound cue he makes right before waking up. Awoken Roby makes him stay awake longer, forcing you to put the mask on longer. I'm dead serious. Don't pick this character. He is horrific. F tier. Alexis is simple, but very easy to forget about, especially on later nights. She will randomly wander around the cameras. If you pull the camera down while on the camera she's at, she'll make you put the mask on for a really long time. So you'll have to switch cameras before pulling them down. She also has 3 penalties. Aggressive Alexis makes her act like CG, where looking at her for too long will also make her attack you. Sneaky Ghost will only make her appear on a camera after you look at it for a second, and Crazed Ghost will insta-kill you instead of making you put the mask on. If you are diligent and aren't an idiot, Alexis is not an issue. But because of how fast you'll be switching through cameras on later nights, I can't give her any higher than a B tier. Onion is another character I never choose. When you pull up the cameras, there's a chance he'll be on them and quickly run left or right. You will have to close the corresponding door. If you close both, he'll drain a bunch of power. Again, for some reason he doesn't have a wiki page, so I don't know what his penalties are, but just knowing what he does, I'm going to put him in C tier. T Generic is a very annoying character who I only choose if every other character was ass. He will be in the entrance with an arrow on his face. Once he leaves the entrance, he will go to whichever vent he was pointing to, and you'll have to stare at him in that vent until he goes away. If he gets into your office, you'll have to put the mask on for a very long time. He has 3 penalties that somehow make him even more annoying. Crazed Robot will make him insta-kill you instead of putting the mask on. How About I Do Anyway will make him enter your office regardless of if you looked at him in the vents or not. However, if you did look at him, you'll have to put the mask on for a shorter amount of time. And Glitched will make T Generic sometimes switch what vent he's going to, making his arrows completely useless. He's a character that breaks the rules and that breaks my balls. D tier. Kaiden acts in much the same way as T Generic. He'll start in the entrance holding a sign with an arrow pointing left or right. Once he leaves with a sound cue, you'll have to close whichever door he was pointing to. He of course has penalties that make him silent and make him go in the opposite direction the sign was pointing to. I've actually picked Kaiden multiple times because if you can avoid his annoying penalties, he's an incredibly easy character to deal with, since you can close both doors when you hear his sound cue for about 2 seconds and not have any additional penalties. A tier. The ink monstrosity is always an immediate pick for me. It starts in your office on the ceiling and slowly creeps down. Hold your flashlight on it to force it back up. The best part is it'll basically teleport all the way back up when you flash the light on him, but that's where his penalties come into play. Stubborn will make you have to hold your light on him, removing the loveliness of this character, but overall still isn't too bad. Head Start will make the ink monstrosity start halfway down in your office and won't be able to go all the way back up to the top. Easily the worst penalty this character has. I love this character, always an immediate choice for me. S tier. Robo Popcakes is a character I initially avoided, but eventually grew to really like picking. At random, he'll spawn on your cameras. Not a specific one, he'll just be an overlay. You will have to match up 2 patterns using the arrows on the overlay, and once you do, he'll disappear. If you don't do it in time, you'll die. This character is always one I liked choosing because of how likely I am to pick characters like Bonnie and Chica, because while I stare at them on the cameras, I can deal with RoboCake, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. He has 2 penalties. X = X minus 2 gives you 2 less seconds to align his face, and pop time will only cause time to progress when you complete a Robo Popcakes attack. Overall, even with max penalties, Robo Popcakes isn't a terrible character. A tier. Entity 12 is pure masochism. They'll start in the storage or maintenance and move down your hall. Watch them on the cameras to make it go back. If they get to your office, they'll make you put the mask on for a long ass time. And get this, the 2 penalties they add doesn't make it any better. Aggressive Entity 12 will make you put the mask on for the rest of the fucking night if they gets into your office. And Run Killer will literally start with it inside of your office and it will never leave. Literally fuck that, fuck this character, F tier. Mura is a character I'd highly recommend not picking if you have other characters that don't want you spamming through cameras, because you will have to be doing that a lot with Mira. Mira will be in the kitchen the entire night and will require you to feed her candy. If you don't feed her enough, you'll die. Candy will randomly spawn throughout the cameras, so you'll have to surf through them to click on them. The penalties she adds are brutal. Savory Tooth makes candy spawn less. Small Plate puts a small cap on the amount of candies you can hold at a time. And Sweet and Sour adds sour candies that will remove a candy from your candy counter if you click on them. So if you've been working your muscle memory this whole time and get this penalty, have fun clicking on every single sour one all the time. I'm not a fan of the camera surfing this character brings, and I'd much rather prefer to just ignore picking her. D tier. The Ringmaster is an interesting character. He'll randomly spawn on your cameras. When you see him, you'll have to flip the camera down and greet him in your office. If you switch cameras, he'll make you put the mask on for a long time. Praised Magician is a penalty that will make clicking off of his camera just instantly kill you. And Masked Magician will make flipping down the camera always make you put the mask on, but for less time than usual. I don't love picking Ringmaster, but I will usually end up choosing him later in a run. B tier. The entity is someone who gives me AIDS. They will randomly spawn on your cameras in 3 locations, except only one of them is actually real. You'll be able to tell because the fakes will be more transparent. Again, for some reason their wiki isn't available, and I never actually chose any of their penalties, so I'm not totally sure what they are. But I hate find them on the camera characters. You guys know that. D tier. No VA is a character I only dealt with once, acting as probably the most nuisance characters of all the nuisance characters. No VA will randomly move around your cameras. You will have to avoid clicking on the camera it's on, or you'll have to put on the mask. On lower AI levels, the camera it's on will be marked with green, making it very easy to see. As the AI goes up, it'll get harder and harder, eventually becoming fucking invisible. And let me tell you, the penalties make it even worse, as I'm sure you could have guessed. Malware makes clicking on no VA's camera kill you instantly. Spamware makes no VA on multiple cameras at a time, and adware creates an adware window on your cameras. If you don't close it fast enough, it will force you to look at no VA's camera. I actually think this character is really cool, and I think that its penalties are actually super interesting. Aside from malware, that one is AIDS. I still don't love picking this character though, because I hate mask characters. So because of this, I'm giving no VA C tier. Moldy is a character that is a really good pick for early game, but late game will easily become a character you will forget about. Whenever you pull down your camera, there's a chance he'll be in your office. If he is, you'll have to hold your light on him for a while, or you'll have to put the mask on. He has 2 penalties. Aggressive Moldy will make you have to shine your light on him for longer, and Crazed Mold will make pulling up the camera while he's in your room instantly kill you. Again, early game, he's amazing, but you will very quickly forget about him once more characters start to get added, so because of this, I'm giving him B tier. Rita Rabbit is thick, but that's not important. What is how she works. She sits on her fat ass in the arcade slowly attempting to leave. All you have to do is hold the flashlight on her to make her go away. Honestly, not that bad of a character if you pair her with other arcade characters, which there is a decent amount of. She has 2 penalties. Aggressive Rita will make you hold your flashlight on her longer, and Cheeky Rabbit will make her move faster the longer you're not looking at her camera. If you know how to stack her with other characters properly, Rita shouldn't be a problem even if you have her penalties. A tier. Coral is another character that I love seeing as an option to pick. Coral will randomly appear at either of your doors with no sound cue, so you'll have to make sure you're paying attention. Simply close the door he's at and he'll knock, letting you know he's left. He has 2 different penalties. Blinding will make you additionally hold the flashlight on him for a while, and making sure will force you to have your camera down while the door is closed in order for him to leave. I love this character, he's super easy to deal with, S tier. Shrimp is another character that just makes me giddy with joy whenever I see her. Shrimp will occasionally spawn some shrimp food in your office on either side. Whichever side it's on is the side you have to close the door of until the shrimp food disappears. The 2 penalties she adds are easily some of the best to deal with. Big Shrimpin' is a penalty that will cause the shrimp food to have the chance to be really big. If it's really big, you just have to close both doors. And Small Shrimpin' gives the food the chance to have the lid off. If it is, all you have to do is close the door to the opposite side of the food. Shrimp is incredibly easy to deal with, she's satisfying to deal with, and she doesn't use the fucking cameras, which I love. Easy S tier. Worm is the next character we have to talk about, and I avoided this guy like the plague. I was very scared of how it was going to work, so I never actually ended up using it. Worm will start in the dining room and go down your right hall and will stay there until you open the door. When you open the door, it'll crawl through your office. Avoid looking at it either by using the mask or looking at the cameras until it leaves. It also has 2 penalties. Snail makes it move across the office slower, and Digger will make Worm add another bar of power usage while it's at your door. Worm just seems like a character that would completely disrupt the flow of the night, and because of that, I'm putting it in D tier. Kyle and Bob are the 2 next assholes I want to talk about, and these guys are weird, and also really shitty and confusing, and I don't fully understand them. Kyle and Bob are 2 separate animatronics, but they work in tandem. Both of them are vent characters. If Kyle, the yellow one, enters your vent, you have to look at him on the camera or he will enter your office and make you use the mask. If Bob is in your vent, you can't look at him on the cameras or he'll enter your office and make you use the mask. The only problem is, I was never able to figure out how to tell which one entered the vent. At first, I thought maybe they'd alternate and I'd have to remember, but then during one run, Kyle attacked twice in a row. So I'm thinking there has to be something I'm misunderstanding about these 2. Of course, they each have 2 penalties. Crazed Sun makes them instantly kill you if they enter your office, and Eclipsed will make one of them invisible while the other is in the vent. I tried to like these guys, but because I'm retarded and can't fully figure them out, they were never for me. D tier. Magi is a pretty interesting character. He will consistently walk back and forth in front of your window. At random, he will make a sound cue letting you know he's about to attack.
Come on, go, go.
When he does, you have to close the door to the side he's on, leading to you needing to keep track and remember which side he's on at all times. This isn't too bad for someone like me who tries to be able to stay in the office as much as possible. Magi has 3 penalties. Reach around will change the way his sound cues work. If he says
Surprise,
or
you won't see this one coming.
You will then need to close the door to the opposite side he's on. This can be confusing for obvious reasons. Do It Myself is a penalty that will make Magi attack the opposite door whenever you deal with his puppet the first time. And Invisimagi makes him fucking invisible, as I'm sure you could have guessed. Magi is not my favorite, but I have no problem picking him later in the run when things are getting tight. B tier. Mallory, on the other hand, is torture. She stays in the ticket booth. At random, she will hold up any amount of fingers on one hand. You will then have to flash her with the flashlight that many times. If you flash her too many times or not enough, she will dash at your door 15 times. This is AIDS. And I can't even lie, 15 times? Why so many? Seems a bit overkill, don't you think? But let's talk about her penalties, which she has 3 of. Ambidextrous will make her be able to show you up to 8 fingers. DoorDash will make her charge 20 fucking times instead of 15, and DoorDash EX makes her charge your doors for the entire night. Easily one of the most bullshit characters when you have her penalties on, but if you can avoid choosing them, she's only really ass because her hand is conveniently behind the fucking camera map. D tier. Roy is one of the only camera animatronics I can actually stomach. He starts in the dining room and slowly makes his way to your office. You can lure him to a previous camera by holding your flashlight on them. Since he's a moth, he's attracted to the light. He only has 1 penalty, Aggressive Roy, which will just make you have to hold the light for longer to get him to move. Overall, very solid character, and not too annoying to handle until his AI value gets really high. A tier. Silly is kinda silly. Fuck, editor, cut that out. Silly is my favorite vent animatronic. He moves around the cameras, who gives a fuck? Eventually, he'll enter one of your vents. When he does, all you have to do is hold the flashlight on him before he enters your office and eats your butt. He also only has 1 penalty, Aggressive Silly, which makes you hold the flashlight on him for longer. Very simple character, he makes sound cues, I like sound cues, S tier. Next up, we've got Bop. She's an interesting, ADHD-riddled little fuck. When you pull down the camera, there's a chance she'll be standing in your window. She will then dash towards either of your doors. Simply close that door before she gets to it. She has 3 penalties. Layered Square will make Bop charge your doors multiple times. Bop Spawn will cause Bop to be able to spawn at your window even if the camera is down, and Force Down will make Bop force your camera down if it is up. A character that requires quick reaction time, and when more characters get added can be easily missed. E tier. Venus is a fucking plant. Oh, you want to know what they do? Sure, that's fair enough. Venus will sit in the kitchen the entire night like your mom in the middle of the night looking for more food, even though she ate 65% of dinner that night. Throughout the night, bunnies will spawn in your room and you'll have to click on them to collect them. You then feed these bunnies to Venus in the kitchen camera. Very fucked up, Venus. These bunnies are cute. Venus has a hefty 4 different penalties, actually being one of the highest in the game. Wabbit hunting will make the bunnies in your office jump around, making them harder to click. Except they're still not hard to click, so it's not that bad. Depopulation will make the bunnies spawn less frequently. Wanderer will make Venus randomly move around your cameras instead of camping the kitchen. And Mako will add Venus's friend Mako into your office. If you click on him, you'll die. Venus is very fun to play with. Their mechanic is satisfying, clicking on the bunnies is fun, and even most of their penalties aren't too bad. S tier. Cyrex is the next character we need to talk about, and I absolutely hate her. She starts in the ticket booth and slowly makes her way to your office. Before she gets to your office, you'll have to go to the ticket booth camera and call her to your office manually and then put the mask on. If she gets to your office by herself, I'm assuming you can guess what happens. And if you couldn't have already guessed, her penalties aren't much better. Rising aggression makes her make you put the mask on longer the longer you take to call her to your office. And call tracker will randomize the camera the call button is on every time you use it. This character is Torment. This character is Anguish, F tier. Next we have Ellie, another character so potently AIDS I fear even talking about her. Her goal is to chew the wires in the storage room to cut your power. You will have to watch for her in either hall. When she's in one, you must make sure the door on that side is open and shake a box of snacks on that side of the office to lure her inside of the office. She will leave shortly thereafter. If your office door isn't open when you lure her, she will bang on the door and drain your power. She also has 3 penalties if this didn't already sound terrible enough. Shaker will force you to shake the bag of treats longer. Power Chomper will make Ellie drain more power when she bangs on your door, and Wind Skip will make her able to teleport from one hall to another without ever appearing in your window like she usually does. I don't think I have to explain why this character is awful to deal with. The rules that go along with her are far more complicated than any other character, F tier. The next character we have to begrudgingly talk about is Ammo. Ammo starts in the dining room and will slowly wander to your right door. Each camera he travels through will have an eject button with 2 power. Before ammo reaches your office, you must press the eject button on any camera that has the eject power, which will then send him back to the dining room. Once a camera is out of power, there's no way to get it back. If this wasn't terrible sounding enough, you haven't even heard of his 3 penalties yet. Quiet ammo will remove his sound cue when he moves. Single take only allows each room to have 1 eject power instead of 2, and Demon adds ammo's friend, Demon, who will randomly move around the ejectable cameras. If you eject a camera Demon is on, you will die. I hate this character. Dealing with him can be bad on higher AI values, but since he's nowhere near as bad as some of the other characters in this game, I'm putting him in D tier. And here we are, 29 pages into my script later, and we can talk about the final animatronic in this game, Swagman. Swagman has a pretty interesting mechanic I've actually never seen before. He will randomly wander around the cameras. You will have to stare at him to fill his swag meter up. If it goes all the way down, he will make you put the mask on for a long ass time. However, this mechanic isn't as bad as I'd usually say it is, because you can easily tell which camera Swagman is on because he lights it up. So, what about his 3 penalties? Well, Swagalicious makes him move from camera to camera faster, which can get annoying. Endless Swag will force you to put the mask on for the rest of the night if Swagman gets in, and Eye on the Swag will make Swagman's meter go up slower than usual. Overall, not a bad character, and no penalty that removes the ability to see what camera he's on. C tier. And there we go! That's every single character in Too Many Nights. I love how many there are. It leads to such a new and interesting experience every time you play, and I love it. But now I'd like to mention the general penalties that aren't specific to any character, as there are a few of those as well. Generally, from what I've noticed, it's much smarter to pick the general penalties over the character penalties, as it will be much more likely that they will be easier to deal with. Overtime will make each hour of the night last 2 seconds longer, and you can actually have 2 overtime penalties active at a time. Less power will, as the name suggests, make you start each night with less power, 10% to be exact, and you can have 3 of these penalties. Less room is a penalty that will give you 1 less option when selecting animatronics, and you can have 2 of them. All-Star will make the next enemy you add start at max AI value. Stranger Danger will add a random character you don't already have at a very low AI value, and Midnight Motivation will make all characters' AI value increase at 3 AM. All-Star, Stranger Danger, and Midnight Motivation are probably going to be penalties you always want to avoid, but I personally don't think the other characters are that bad. Next up, I'd like to talk about the characters that you can unlock to play as, because if you remember, each character has different pros and cons for you to choose from. To start, each character has a different amount of lives they'll start you with. Getting jump scared by an animatronic will cause you to lose 1 of these lives, giving you multiple opportunities if you mess up. And of course, I'll be putting these guys on a tier list as well. The first character you will have by default is Michael. He gives you 3 hearts and has no abilities. He's as basic can get, really. D tier. You also, by default, have 3 other much more interesting characters. The first being Elizabeth. She gives you 4 hearts and forces the enemies to have their AI values increase slower. But as a con, you'll receive half the amount of coins you usually get. The low AI value honestly makes her pretty valuable, but of course, never being able to buy anything is never fun. C tier. Evan is the next auto-unlocked character. He gives you 3 hearts, makes all enemies start on a higher AI value, but to compensate, nets you 1.5x more coins, which will be nice for when we talk about shops later in the video. High AI values are never super great, especially if you're dogshit at FNAF games like I am, but overall, he is nowhere near the worst character to choose. C tier. Cassidy is the last character you'll unlock by default. She only gives you 1 heart and makes every single enemy start at maximum aggression, and forces you to pick a penalty every single night. She also will never allow you to see shops. Instead, you can use your money to remove penalties in animatronics. I don't care that you can remove things. Having to pick a penalty every night whilst also only having 1 heart is pure AIDS. F tier. Henry is the first character on the list to unlock. However, you can unlock them in pretty much any order you want. Henry is unlocked by beating at least 1 night while using Michael, Elizabeth, Evan, and Cassidy. Something that should be very easy to pull off. He gives you 3 hearts and gives you way more options when picking enemies, penalties, and shop items. However, you will be forced to pick more enemies and more penalties. The last thing you're going to want to do is give yourself more threats. So even though your option pool is bigger, the cons outweigh the pros here a lot. D tier. Gabriel can be unlocked by having 2 penalties active in a run that affect Freddy. He gives you 3 hearts, gives you a guaranteed shop every single night. But as a downside, each character comes with a few of their penalties already added. I'm sure you know what I'm going to say, and a lot of character-specific penalties are horrific. Sure, you may never have to pick a penalty after beating a night, but I really don't care about that as much as getting butt-fucked by character penalties. F tier. Jeremy can be unlocked by getting a power outage on night 3 and beyond and still surviving the night. Generally one of the harder characters to unlock. He gives you 5 hearts, you start the run with 500% power instead of 100%, the nights are shorter than usual, but as a downside, your power carries over from night to night. But don't let that fool you. 500% power is a lot of fucking power, and if you're good at enemy building, you can easily make that last a long time. And 5 hearts is a fuck ton. Easy A tier character. Susie will be unlocked if you die to Chica twice in a single night and then beat that night. She gives 3 hearts. Each enemy starts at max AI value, but you gain 1 life after you beat a night. Now, at first glance, this may sound really bad, but I actually had my second best run ever using Susie, and it's 100% because of that life gain. With characters always on max difficulty, there's no way for them to get harder, so you'll get used to them at their hardest difficulty pretty quickly. Sure, she's not the best, but she definitely isn't as bad as she sounds. B tier. Fritz is unlocked by having 100 or more coins at one time in a single run. He gives you 2 hearts, and your lives are attached to the number of coins you have. To be specific, for every 50 coins you have, that equals 1 heart. Overall, this character is more confusing than it will ever be useful, actively discouraging you from ever buying anything. You're better off just using Michael, as there's no real downside. D tier. Fitzgerald is unlocked by beating night 5 in a run whilst only picking the leftmost enemies and penalties. I actually struggled a bit unlocking this character, so what does he do? Well, you start with 3 hearts, and each enemy and penalty are randomized each night, meaning the 3 enemies you pick on night 1 will be different on night 2, and you can also pay to reroll, as well as getting a shop every single night. This character really just serves as what I'm going to call a challenge character. You would never actually want to bring this character into a legitimate run, and because of that, I'm giving him an F tier. Sally is easily the most unique character out of all of the normal ones, and I'll explain what normal means in a bit. You unlock her by beating a night with both Percy Poodle and Rowan Rat on max AI values. Sally introduces a brand new mechanic, that being the pup pal from Playtime with Percy. It works in the exact same way as in that game, and the best part, your progress on the night is tied to it. No more waiting out the night. You will have to complete the games on the pup pal for the night to end. Again, this goes to serve as more of a challenge character than anything else, as playing Sally will by default make the game much harder, and because of this, I'm giving her F tier. Again, not because she's not a fun character, but because if you're trying to get far in a run, she's not the character for you. And finally, we have the man himself, Scott Cawthon, who is unlocked by completing night 3 with every other character in the game. And of course, since he's the final character, he has the most interesting mechanic. He himself doesn't have any abilities, instead letting you pick the pros and cons from every other character in the game, allowing you to mix and match your favorite pieces from other characters. You don't need me to tell you that Scott is a broken character. I'm pretty sure you can figure that out. Easy S tier. And boom, that's every single playable character in Too Many Nights. So now we can start talking about the items that can be bought in the shop. I won't be going over each and every one, since there are literally a fuck ton to talk about, and this video is already long enough. But I do want to talk about some of the best ones to look out for. Early Out is an item that will make each night 2 seconds shorter. More Power will start each night with 10% more power. More Room will give you more options when picking animatronics. The Empress will give you 1 life and give you more options when picking animatronics. The Emperor will decrease every animatronic's AI value by 2. The Chariot will have you start each night with 15% more power. The Hanged Man will remove 2 random penalties you have activated. Death removes a random enemy. The Moon makes each hour 3 seconds shorter. Fritz Children's Bible will make items you can't afford never show up in shops, and Sparked will make sparks appear randomly on cameras, and touching them will increase your power. Those are all of the yummy mashed potatoes in my belly items that I like to look out for in the shop. Again, there are a lot more, but I think it would just be really boring to go over all of them. But there you go. That's everything you need to know, and as far as I'm aware, everything that Too Many Nights has to offer. I would highly recommend you give this game a try. It is some of the most fun I've ever had since starting this channel, and I actually plan on doing some Too Many Nights streams here on this channel. If that's something you're interested, let me know. Also, if you were interested, Too Many Nights is actually getting a version 2.1, and it's being worked on as I'm writing this. I'm super excited to see what it has to offer once it's fully released. This game is so incredibly unique and combines two of my favorite game genres of all time into one amazing game. The art style is unique, the community input is fantastic, and of course, the gameplay and gameplay loop are impeccable. The Five Nights at Freddy's formula. Arguably what defines a FNAF game in the genre of a FNAF game. You're stuck in a small space, you can't move, and several threats are trying to eliminate you as you use a small amount of tools to defend yourself for an arbitrary amount of time. This, in a nutshell, is Five Nights at Freddy's as a genre. However, there are some Five Nights at Freddy's fan games that don't follow this formula, and if it wasn't for the use of the characters from the original game, you would have no idea that they were even FNAF games to begin with. And maybe you can think of a few games like this. The game I'll be covering today is another one of those games. A game so unique, so good, that if it didn't use official FNAF characters, it could easily be its own fantastic survival horror experience. So sit back, strap in, and join me today as we cover Fredbear and Friends Reboot. You can honestly think about Fredbear and Friends Reboot as more of an Outlast, Resident Evil, or Poppy Playtime style game, purely in terms of how it plays. It's a story-based, free-roam survival horror game, except it uses characters and settings from the Five Nights at Freddy's universe, and it's honestly super cool. We play as a guy named Thomas. When this game takes place, the Fredbear and Friends restaurant had been closed for over 26 years. And together with our friends Chris, Ashley, and Richard, they all decided it'd be a great idea to do some urban exploring in the now abandoned building, not knowing that they were about to walk into a sick and sadistic death trap, the likes of which they'd never experienced before. We drive to the restaurant where all of our friends are waiting and head inside to find them. We all talk about what the plan is, and it seems like they don't even fucking have one. So like, why are we even here? No matter. We decide to all split up like Scooby and the gang to explore faster, something I would never agree to do because this building is so dark I can barely see 10 feet in front of me. So, to solve the darkness problem, Richard finds the power room as we enter the office of the building. Successfully turning the power on, I ask the question, is it even possible for a building 26 years abandoned to even be able to have power? That's a genuine question, by the way. I mean, I guess it makes sense, but like, who's paying that bill? The city? I have no idea. After having our fun in the office, we meet back up with our bald friend Chris. I know being bald isn't a crucial plot point, but a plot point I found relevant to point out. Like, imagine being bald. Couldn't be me. I have luscious locks. Bald bitch, loser bitch, boy, loser bitch. Chris tells us he wants to continue exploring to find out more about this place, which I call bullshit on because this bald loser is sitting down and is actually not exploring a damn thing. Heading back to the office, we find 2 documents for Chris since he's too lazy to go look for himself. One of the documents mentions the animatronics acting up, and the other talks about an armed man in a purple suit. I wonder who that could possibly be. We go back to where Chris was, only to find him missing. After exploring around, we realize we can't find Richard or Ashley either. We hear a voice in the distance yelling to get away, and later hear what sounds like Richard getting attacked.
What the fuck?
We decide to say fuck our friends and run to the exit, only to find that the door is somehow locked. We decide we need to go hide in the office since there's a door we can close to keep ourselves safe. As we run down the hallway, we run into Chris. Relieved, we go to greet him, only to watch him get snatched from something hiding in the vent on the ceiling, pulling him up into the ceiling and tearing him apart.
Yeah, not this way though, not fucking that way, no we ain't.
We obviously turn around and go to the other entrance of the office since I'm not about to get ganked like Chris just did. As we go to the other hallway, we can hear loud metallic footsteps following behind us. We quickly hide under the desk and hope that whatever is following us is retarded. We watch as a crooked spring Bonnie limps through the office, unaware of our location. We come back up only to hear a ring of the phone on the desk. We answer the phone to be greeted by some douchebag using voice mod like those guys that go on Valorant to flirt with any female over the age of 10.
If you want to survive, listen very closely.
He tells us how to survive each of the 8 animatronics. The fucking 8 goddamn cock-sucking animatronics. My god, that is a lot. I'm not going to explain every single animatronic at the same time right now because that would be boring as fuck. And trust me, this phone call was also boring as fuck. The big thing that we're told is that Fredbear is scary, and he's the reason why one of the doors to the office is broken. So fantastic, we have a door that doesn't work. What exactly are we supposed to do? I have no idea. I have no direction whatsoever aside from let's go see if I can break the exit door down. But before we can try anything, we're forced to listen to a cutscene while there are 8 hungry robots whose mouths begin to water whenever they smell my gooch. During this cutscene, we're put into the perspective of a mechanic named Simon. We're told that we have to go into the Fredbear's building to fix some of the robots because the customers reported them to be acting aggressive. So we can gauge that this cutscene obviously takes place before the shutdown. After this cutscene, we're actually put into the perspective of this mechanic as we head inside the building to solve the problem at 5 in the morning because as an engineer, we're on call all the time, yet still get paid like dog shit and are still expected to just wake up and travel at any time, even for the smallest of reasons that could 100% wait until my fucking shift starts. But alright, let's go I guess. As we enter the building, we notice the animatronics are on for some reason, and they shouldn't be at night. We figure somebody just forgot to shut them off, so we go to the employees' room to flip the switch to power them off to take a look at them. After grabbing the key from the office and heading inside, we find that the power lever for the robots is actually already off, yet for some reason, the characters are still on. We decide to just manually shut them off to work on them instead. So we walk to the stage, reach up to turn off Spring Freddy, only to get that Soulja Boy cranked on us and get knocked the fuck out by a guy who I can only assume to be the guy we heard on the phone. We come back to playing as Thomas again, and are tasked with obviously finding a way to get the exit door unlocked. We find a key to the bathroom on the office shelf and head down the hall to go inside. Inside of the bathroom, we find a hammer that we hope we can use to break the lock on the exit door. However, as we exit the bathroom, we see the non-attractive, fat-ass version of Chica heading in our direction, so we quickly jump inside of one of the stalls to hide. We hold our breath as Chica passes by and quickly run out to the exit door. We break the handle to the door and open it, seeing the final exit door. We don't get far before Foxy jumps out at us for some fucking reason. This door was locked? Why the hell was Foxy on the other side of it? Oh well, what the fuck ever. It's a little bit more important right now that we run away from the murder robot behind us. We run back to the employee room and hide behind a shelf. Foxy walks inside, but before he can find us, he hears a noise coming from the door inside of the room. Opening it, he finds who I can only assume to be Richard and jumps him like he's in Detroit. We take this chance to book it back to the exit. As we run, we hear Richard getting torn apart, screaming. We get to the door just in time and Jesus fucking Christ, the door is gone? What the fuck? Let's ignore the fact that this doesn't make sense because I don't think I need to explain to you why a door disappearing doesn't make sense. We turn around to see a certain large twitching bear. He just screams in our face and disappears, clearly being a hallucination. We figure there's no better time than the present to find another exit. As we walk into the main party room, so does Spring Bonnie. And now's the time where I can talk about how he works. Spring Bonnie is as basic as it gets when it comes to a survival horror character. He patrols around the building, and if you get too close to him in his line of sight, he'll start chasing you, and he won't stop chasing you until he kills you. And there's also no chance you're going to outrun him. The only way to get him to stop chasing you without dying is to lure him to the side of the office with a door and close it. But you also really have to be careful with how you close this door, because it doesn't work how any normal FNAF door would. It only stays closed for about 2 seconds, so make sure you time this properly. Nope. Oh! I closed it! I fucking closed it! I fucking closed it! I fucking closed it! I'm dead. I'm dead as shit. If you do, Spring Bonnie should be teleported to a different room in the building. We maneuver our way around Spring Bonnie and eventually make it to the other exit of the building, only to find that the door is missing too. Isn't life just so awesome sometimes? It's at this moment we hear Richard scream, which confuses me because I thought Richard just got killed by Foxy. So if who we heard just now was Richard, then who did Foxy just kill? It couldn't have been Chris because we saw Chris get killed by the fucker in the vents. It also couldn't be Ashley because it was 100% the scream of a man. And it can't be the engineer because he entered the building in that cutscene 26 or more years ago. This is not important at all, so let's actually continue talking about what's happening, shall we? We head back to the office where we heard the scream, only to find nobody there. We figure for some reason we should go back to the employee room. Why? Ask Shitlips Thomas, because I can't figure out a good reason to go back there, but apparently he's the FNAF expert, and not me. Before we can continue, we get another engineer cutscene. We're dragged into a back room and we overhear 2 people talking. Well, really only one person talking, because the other guy has his voice changer on so deep thinking it'll make the e-girls wet, so I really can't even hear him.
Why didn't you just kill him? Really? Dave, you know exactly what happened before.
The voice I can hear sounds suspiciously like the guy on the phone who called us here at 5 in the fucking morning. He tells voice changer guy that he should just kill us so we don't get away like the other engineer and spread the word about what they're doing. After not doing it, the phone guy decides to just do it himself, so he enters the room and stabs us to death. Fantastic. I really shouldn't have lived in Chicago. Everyone in Chicago gets stabbed. Going back to the employee room, we find the corpse of a police officer. Seeing that his radio had been taken, we now know that whoever is behind this really knows what they're doing. But we figure that because a police officer went missing, that other officers will be arriving at some point to look for him. So knowing all we have to do is survive, this game's most agonizing survival section finally begins. And I get to explain what all of the characters do in grueling detail, because they're all laid on us at the exact same time, and we're just supposed to remember what they all do from the 2-minute phone call we got 15 minutes ago. Hooray. Alright, well, the goal is easy. Just survive until 6 AM without getting found by any of the animatronics. Sounds simple enough. All we have to do is track all of their movements and learn their patterns, and then find a spot in the massive 3D environment where none of the characters ever have a line of sight to, right? Almost, but not really, because one main character. Bonnie. Bonnie is this game's way of preventing you from doing exactly that. On certain time intervals, Bonnie will emerge from the room where the puppet is. Yes, by the way, the puppet is in this game. Don't think too much about it. There are a lot of characters from a lot of different FNAF time periods in this game, so just shut up. Anyways, Bonnie will exit this room and make his way to the employee room to turn the puppet control lever on. Once it's on, the puppet will begin moving on a track across the ceiling that leads to a door which has some chains on it. Why are there chains on this door? Well, it's to hold back and stop the big bastard himself, Fredbear. If the puppet makes it all the way to this door, it will break it down and allow Fredbear to come out. And spoiler alert, Fredbear always knows where you are, and if he gets out, you will 100% die, because as mentioned earlier, he doesn't care about the doors, and he is faster than you are. So, all you have to do to prevent this from happening is go into the employee room and turn off the puppet control lever whenever Bonnie turns it on. This leads to you needing to be moving around pretty consistently throughout this night. Why do that when you could just hide right outside of this room, or maybe even inside of it? Well, that's where Spring Bonnie comes back in. Spring Bonnie, and in fact every character during this section, has a very specific movement pattern that they will walk in. And thank God they do, because memorizing these patterns is the only reason I ever completed this section. Spring Bonnie has the habit of walking into literally every single room in the building, and his line of sight is really large, so you will have to always maneuver around him. Also, if that wasn't awesome enough, with every hour that passes during this section, each animatronic will become more and more agile, which really just means their line of sight increases. Chica is the next character I want to quickly mention, and she is pretty boring as a character. She's just Spring Bonnie, except her path doesn't cover as much ground as his does. Her line of sight also appears to be a lot smaller than his, so that's good news, I suppose. She does go through the main party room a bit during her cycle, and that will become important later when I go over my amazing strategy. Let's cover Freddy next, as he will probably cause you the least amount of issues out of every character in this game. Freddy will randomly spawn in random rooms, typically next to the doorways. All you have to do is not walk directly into him. He won't chase you, but if you get too close, he'll instantly kill you. So really just make sure you're watching where you're going. Mangle isn't that terrible either. Side note, I know its name in the game isn't actually Mangle, but fuck you. It looks just like her, and it crawls through the fucking vents like Mangle, so I'm calling it Mangle. Mangle is also the one that killed Chris in that cutscene earlier too, by the way. Mangle is also incredibly easy to deal with. On the floors and ceilings of certain rooms, there will be large vents. Occasionally, you may notice wires coming out from those vents. That means that Mangle is waiting there, and if you walk by, she'll snatch you up. So once again, just like Freddy, open your eyes and you'll be just fine. Foxy is the only real problem during this night, as he's a random character with no pathing, and is also super easy to forget about. Foxy has the chance to be hiding behind any doorway at any time. The only way to tell if he's there is by standing next to the doorway and listening for quiet breathing. For some reason, you can't just move to one side of the door and check if he's standing there, since you literally can't see him even if he is there, which is something I died to in my playthrough, and you can see that over on my second channel, Dxtr Black. That's really all of the problems to worry about during this night, but Bonnie is obviously the most dangerous. So, how should you go about pulling this off? Well, when this game first came out, there was a super awesome glitch you could use to cheese this entire section. If you remember where we hid from Foxy during a cutscene, you used to be able to hide in the exact same spot, and both Bonnie and Spring Bonnie, aka the only characters that enter the employee room, wouldn't be able to see you hiding there. And since it's in the employee room, it was right next to the puppet control switch, so you could beat the entire section just by standing in one spot. Unfortunately for me, I didn't get the luxury of being able to do that, as in the newer version of this game, during this section only, an invisible wall is placed there to block your path. So I had to play the legitimate way. This is when I started to develop my strategy. I'm gonna be so real with you, it took me about 45 minutes to complete this section. I am complete ass at these types of games, which is why I never play them. I personally really dislike the mechanic of every enemy is patrolling randomly and will chase you when seen, but you also have a bunch of bullshit to do at the same time. I know it's a common mechanic, but it's just never something I was able to get into. Mainly because I don't take being chased very well at all, so it just kind of gives me a lot of anxiety. Here's how this section can be beaten 100% of the time for anyone who struggles with things like this, like I do. I came up with this myself. I'm super proud of myself. I did no walkthrough because I'm the best. The first step is to run out of the employee room as fast as you can and get to the far corner of the main party room to the left of the main stage. You have to be fast because Spring Bonnie will enter this room quickly after. While in this corner, both Spring Bonnie and Bonnie will never be able to see you, which is huge since this location also gives you an easy view of both of them since they enter through the door on your left. Once in this corner, Spring Bonnie will soon pass by. After a while, Bonnie will enter the room. Bonnie is slow as shit, so this will take a while, but once you see him, you can start following him. Bonnie doesn't care so much about killing you as he does flipping the puppet switch, so you can actually get pretty close behind him. Creep, 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 creep. That's the sound I make. Creep, creep, creep. You gotta match your steps with his, bro. Boom, boom,
Boom. 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 All good. But obviously, if you get too close, he'll still kill you. Once Bonnie leaves the main party room to enter the hallway, Spring Bonnie should be up near the office, so you don't have to worry about him. Take the time it takes for Bonnie to enter the employee room and flip the switch to stand by the doorway to listen for Foxy. Once Bonnie flips the switch, quickly enter the employee room and turn it off. After Bonnie flips the switch, he will exit the room through a door you can't even open, so you don't have to worry about him turning around. After flipping the switch, you want to run back to the main party room. At this point, Chica should be inside. She will walk around the tables and exit the room through the door that both Bonnies enter through. Simply be slow and follow her. Once she leaves the room, go back into the far left corner again. This is now going to begin the second cycle. This time, since the paths that Bonnie and Spring Bonnie take are much different in length, they will be a lot closer together. Bonnie will enter the room first this time, with Spring Bonnie directly behind him. Once Spring Bonnie goes up and around the tables, you can start slowly following Bonnie. At this point, you'll have to be patient, since Spring Bonnie will enter the entrance room, then travel back into the party room, and then go into the hall to the employee room. Then we'll travel to the office. So you will hear Bonnie flip the switch, and you will have to wait probably 30 to 45 seconds before you can switch it back, because if you're too fast, Spring Bonnie will see you. If you sneak past him while he's in the entrance room, it appears that Foxy will always be behind the door to the hallway and you will die. So it's your best bet to just wait for Spring Bonnie to finish this cycle and start walking to the office. I recommend waiting directly in front of the stage during this section since he won't be able to see you. Once he goes down the hall, quickly run into the employee room and flip the switch. Then quickly run back into the party room and go right into the exit doorway. Chica will be entering the party room at this point, and if you're any closer to the stage, she will see you. Once she walks around the tables, once again, you can follow her out and go back to the hiding spot in the far left corner. Now, the third cycle gets a little bit scary, so be ready. Bonnie will soon enter the room again, with Spring Bonnie fairly close behind. However, there is enough room between Bonnie and Spring Bonnie for you to be able to get in between them. Closely follow behind Bonnie and Spring Bonnie will enter the party room. Continue to follow Bonnie into the employee room and shut the switch off immediately after Bonnie turns it on. Immediately run back to the entrance of the party room. At this point, Spring Bonnie should be walking into the exit room. You can take this small window of time to run to the front of the stage. Spring Bonnie will enter the hallway, and once he does, you're safe to go back to the exit doorway. Since Spring Bonnie is near the office, you don't need to go back to the corner. In fact, you actually shouldn't, because Chica will follow behind Bonnie. Bonnie will once again pass you, and you can once again follow him into the employee room and shut the switch. After flipping this switch, this final time, you're home free. Simply sit in the employee room and this nightmare of a section will come to an end. And the best part is, since the movement of almost all of the characters is scripted, you'll be able to use this method to beat this section of the game every single time without fail. I hope you enjoyed this overtly long explanation section. It's easily what took me the longest to do while playing this game, so I figured I should devote a long time in the script talking about it. Let me know what you think. After beating this section, we get a cutscene where we're running down the hallway, being chased by Spring Bonnie. We get into the office and close the door on him, which literally cuts the fucker in half. I love this. This is peak. Absolute cinema. As we turn around, Foxy charges at us, but luckily, the animatronic power gets shut off and Foxy shuts down right in front of us. Walking down the broken doors hallway, we see a deactivated Freddy, and Chica tries to kill us, only to get powered off at the same time, which actually scared me in my playthrough, which you can find on my second channel, Dxtr Black. We continue to explore the now eerily quiet building. Going back to the exit, we fall to our knees, only for a door to appear in front of us, locked by a code. A voice comes over the intercoms that sounds weirdly like the guy that killed the engineer in a previous cutscene. He tells us that he's impressed by our work and that the animatronics we faced thus far will be deactivated for the remainder of our stay, aside from two, who he calls his favorites. It's now up to us to figure out the code. We find a piece of paper on the wall that says "Find Me." Not totally sure what the hell that means,
We wander around into the puppet room where we find writing on the wall saying, "It's me." Next to this message, we find another piece of paper saying, "My back is to the corner." After reading this note, the two threats of this section activate: Fredbear and Mangle. Again, Mangle acts a bit differently, so let's talk about her first. This time, she's no longer in the vents. She's walking around the building. If she sees you, she'll roar like a dinosaur. And if you don't get out of her line of sight in 4 seconds, she'll start chasing you. And she won't stop until she catches you. So just like, run, I guess, bozo. Fredbear, on the other hand, should be scary. But because of an item we got at the beginning of this segment, he really isn't. At the start of this section, we're given a taser. Fredbear will always know where you are and will constantly be crip walking towards you. Except, Fredbear while walking is very slow, so you can easily stay away from him. Every once in a while, he will also roar for some reason, and will then begin to charge at you. While he's charging, he will be faster than you, but when he gets close, use your taser to stun him and he'll go back to walking. So avoiding the threats on this segment is honestly a cakewalk compared to what we had to deal with during the last section. Now, I had a stroke trying to figure out what "my back is to the corner" meant. What you have to do is find Freddy, since his back is to the corner of the wall. Except not really, because his back is just to the wall, not really the corner. Regardless, on his back is another note stating camera 2. I've neglected to mention the cameras thus far, but that's because they're literally completely useless for the most part. Throughout the building, there are several monitor stands where you can place your monitor, because I guess you can't just hold a fucking iPad with your hands. You instead need a holder like a toddler who blares annoying ass YouTube videos while in a public restaurant, and the parents just find nothing wrong with that since they'd rather have the internet raise them instead of them. Anyways, when you place the monitor down, you can look at the cameras. Big whoop. Using your eyes is better in a game like this because you can walk around freely. Regardless, looking at camera 2 now, we find another message saying, "I'm here." Going to the location of camera 2, you'll find another note saying, "Look up." On the ceiling, you'll find the number 7 and yet another note reading, "Inside my head." What this means, if you weren't a genius like me, is that you have to go to Foxy in the office and look in his mouth. Inside, you'll find the number 3 and another note reading, "Behind a curtain." Now, there are 3 curtains in this building, and you have to look at each of them in a specific order, which is dumb because all you're doing is looking behind them. Behind the last curtain, you'll see the number 7, and then some text reading, "The safest place," will start flashing on your screen. Let's pause. I really don't understand why it wasn't just another note. This is supposed to be like an escape room set up by the guy that locked us in here. How the fuck was he able to make us hallucinate a phrase? I don't know. Let's move on. The safest place refers to the office. Going back to the office, we find another note reading the second digit. Obviously, the second digit is the number 3, as it's the second digit we found on this little scavenger hunt. Finally, going back to the exit door, we can type in the code 6373. Fun fact, by the way, you can actually just type in this code at the start of this section if you don't want to go through all the bullshit I just explained, because there's no check here to see if you have or not. But after punching in the code, the door disappears. Opening another door that it was covering leads to another room with no fucking door. Falling to our knees again, all of a sudden the door reappears for some reason, and a bunch of police officers barge in past us, and we're taken out of the building to safety. After being rescued, we're shown a cutscene where Thomas is either being interviewed by police or is in a therapy session. I can't quite tell which one is correct. He freaks out about his friends being killed and then realizes he never heard anything from Ashley. No screams, no body found, nothing. This makes him tweak like when I'm in line at the grocery store and some 40-year-old mom pulls out her own grocery bags to save the environment. You want to know what I do when I see someone using their own bags in the grocery store? When it's my turn in line, I tell the bagger, "Hey, all my shit, double bag it." Anyways, after this cutscene, we're thrown into the credits. But that's not where this game comes to an end. We actually get a post-credit scene like it's a Marvel movie, where Thomas is in his room. He wakes up in the middle of the night and looks out his window, only to see the silhouette of an animatronic we never saw in the pizzeria staring back at him. And finally, Fredbear and Friends reboot comes to a close. Overall, I think this game was a super enjoyable experience. Did I get overtly frustrated and almost give up while playing the survival section? Yes, but I beat it, and I'm glad I did. The story to this game is simple and nice. There's no retarded digging that we have to do to learn the simplest things like a fucking name of a character, Scott, asshole. We're instead just given a story the way it should be given. A few mysteries here and there, but nothing so overtly frustrating that it makes it not fun to figure out. The game looks gorgeous, it plays well when you understand what you're doing, and overall I would highly recommend you give it a go. Obviously, from the teaser we saw at the end of the game, a second game was clearly in the works. But with no updates for several years, and it being confirmed that at some point the game's development was put on halt, and given the fact that this game came out 7 years ago, I don't think it's very likely we'll see Chapter 2 anytime soon. But hey, only time will tell. Alright guys, the slander is ridiculous. I do not have a Coke can wiener, and I can prove it. I had a lovely fan redraw me. Boom. New art. How does it feel being wrong? You gonna cry? Yeah, you gonna piss your pants because I don't have a penis? Yeah, I was castrated. What are you gonna do about it? Anyways, Jaja, thank you so much for drawing these new poses. I think they look amazing, and I hope all of you get a kick out of them too, and I stop getting comments about my character Skags having an absolute sledgehammer penis. I just had to address that. Go follow her on Instagram, link in the description. Let's get to the video. If you've ever played any of the games from the Souls series, you'd know that a lot of the time the bosses, while being incredibly difficult, tend to be able to be broken down into pattern recognition, and once you understand a boss's pattern, beating them becomes much easier. The FNAF game I'll be talking about today feels the same way. Today, I'll be talking about Mary's Arcade, a FNAF fan game that, in its own creator's words, is, quote, a short, simple FNAF game that wasn't overly dependent on story, avoids using FNAF mechanics like doors and masks, and doesn't rely on randomness or luck, just complete skill, end quote. It was that final part about no randomness or luck that really grabbed my attention, since luck and RNG is the main reason I end up disliking FNAF games. 1020 mode in FNAF 2 is the prime example, but of course, fan games are guilty of this as well. I'm excited to dive into Mary's Arcade. I'm sure there will be no complaining from my end at all, and I'll be totally calm the entire time and will never go feral. Grab a snack and a drink, there's a lot I want to talk about. Mary's Arcade begins with us naming the Night Guard, something that I haven't seen other FNAF games do before. The only reason I'm mentioning it here is because the name shows up on the menu and on your paychecks. It's important for me to say that for these videos, I don't typically use my own footage. I usually borrow footage from full playthroughs and challenge runs from people like Toy Bonbon or Shooter. Rest assured, I do play the games I make videos about, I just use other people's footage for the review videos. Just had to get that out of the way. The gameplay loop of Mary's Arcade is honestly super refreshing and unique in comparison to other FNAF games. There are only 3 animatronics, but I promise you that's all this game needs in order to keep the game very difficult. And I promise you, when I tell you this game is hard, this game is really fucking hard. So here's how it works. In your camera system, you have 2 important buttons, your PA button and your buzzer button. I'll start with the buzzer button. When you press the buzzer, it will shock the camera you are currently looking at. If an animatronic is on that camera, they will be locked in place until the buzzer finishes, I don't know, buzzing? What do you want from me? Then afterwards, they will continue on their path. The PA button does something pretty cool. It's somewhat similar to the Balloon Boy call from Five Nights at Freddy's 3. If you use the PA call on a camera that an animatronic is about to go into, they will immediately go into that camera. You can't make animatronic go backwards through cameras, only forward. You might be asking yourself, in what way is that even useful? And the answer is honestly pretty cool. When an animatronic reaches your door, their eyes will light up, letting you know they're there. You will then have to open your camera quickly, select the camera on the opposite side of the office, and use the PA button to lure them through your office to the other side. Now that might lead you to have another question. If you just lure them to the other door, wouldn't they just attack you from that door? And the answer is no. I can't find a very good reason to justify why this makes sense, so we're not even gonna try. But out of the 2 animatronics that attack from your left and right doors, they have movement patterns similar to animatronics from other FNAF games. Mary, the pink wolf, or fox? I don't really know. I think she's a fox. Anyways, she'll move clockwise through the cameras since the building is basically just a big circle. Rascal, the raccoon animatronic, will move counterclockwise around the building. They will never, under any circumstance, turn around and start moving in the opposite direction. They will only ever move forward through rooms. So when you pull one of them through your office, they will have to make a full rotation around the building before being able to attack you at your door again. Are you following along? Great, you get a medal or a cookie. I hope you're allergic to cookies and you die. Rah, rah, rah. Now I need to mention the only part of this game that I think is a negative: cooldowns on your door lights. You'll notice that after using the buzzer or the PA button, that a bar will start filling up underneath the button. This is a cooldown for those buttons, and this prevents you from spamming them, which would obviously break the game and make it far too easy. Here's where the problem comes around. Mary and Rascal move at the speed of fucking sound. Sonic type shit. And on later nights when they're both active, the cooldowns become a huge problem. Because once you use the PA button on one of them, the other will reach your office well before your PA cools down. So, what's the remedy for this? Your door lights. In addition to using the buzzer to stall animatronics in place, using your door light when an animatronic is in the doorway will also stall their movement. I will note that the lights are meant to give you an extra 5 to 10 seconds for your PA to cool down, and not meant for you to halt an animatronic when your PA is basically empty. While an animatronic is at your door, they still have a timer for when they'll move into your room, whether you're flashing them or not. And if you're flashing them when that timer runs down, the lights to the building will flicker out and you'll lose the night. If you're easily frustrated, this game is probably not for you. On night 1, only Mary is active. With one animatronic, this game is a cakewalk. But this night is really just meant to give you an understanding of how the mechanics work, and it's also where we're told that the night will pass along faster if the cameras are not up. This gives us an incentive to not be looking at the cameras, but as you'll soon find out, looking at the cameras all the time is going to be the most valuable asset in this game. Night 2 is where Rascal becomes active, and the game actually starts to become a challenge. Still, this night is really easing you into dealing with 2 animatronics at one time, so beating it is fairly easy. On this night, there's a large emphasis placed on your buzzer, because it becomes incredibly important with 2 active animatronics. Night 3 is where this game really amps up in difficulty. You'll notice that Rascal moves much faster than Mary does, which can pose a small problem when it comes to balancing their locations, but be ready because it only goes from 10 to 100 after this night. But before this night ends, you get to see one of the coolest things I've ever witnessed in a FNAF game.
Power supply low. Powering down.
Was that not the fucking coolest shit you've ever seen in your life? A scripted cutscene that makes you think you lost? It's so cool. And I think the only reason why it left so many people, including myself, as shocked as it did, was because it completely breaks the Five Nights at Freddy's norms. I'm sure everyone who's played FNAF has had a moment where the clock strikes 6 a.m. in the middle of a jump scare animation. It's a rare occurrence, yet it somehow still happens to most of us. And this game takes that concept and creates its own cutscene out of it. It was this moment while playing this game that made me decide I needed to make a video about it. But now we move on to Night 4, aka Poop City. Night 4 introduces the final animatronic, Scarlet the deer, or a doe. Fawn? I don't know, it's a deer. Scarlet does something totally different from the other 2 animatronics. She is not affected by your PA system or your buzzer, meaning she'll truck right through the building however and whenever she pleases. How do you stop her? Remember when I said that not looking at the cameras makes the night go faster? Yeah? In order to stop Scarlet, you have to stare her ass down on the cameras. Life's great, dude. It's awesome, honestly. Scarlet begins on the stage like all the other animatronics do, and she'll follow either Mary or Rascal's path. She'll continue in that direction until she reaches your office, where she'll then attack from the door in the middle of the room, which means you can't use your door lights to stall her either. So instead, you must find her on the cameras and stare at her. Once you do this for long enough, which takes around 3 seconds, but trust me, feels like way longer, especially when some fucker is at your door. But once you look at her for long enough, she'll move backwards 1 camera, and then you can switch to that camera and continue to push her back until she is at the top of the map. Note, you can't make her go back on stage, so the camera right next to it is as safe as you're gonna get. Keeping Scarlet away doesn't get too stressful until you have Mary or Rascal sitting at your door, and you have to stop flashing them to pull your camera up to keep her away. But now, we get to touch on Night 5. And if Night 4 was Poop City, Night 5 is Poop Universe. Oh my god, Night 5. It's very important that I answer a specific question now. The Game Jolt page for Mary's Arcade states that this game does not use RNG and is pure skill. Is that statement true? The answer is yes, but I promise you, when Night 5 comes around, it will feel like complete RNG. But it's not, okay? It's not. I promise. This game is not so much a horror game as it is a puzzle game. Literally everything that takes place during the nights are scripted. That includes where animatronics start, when they move, and where they move. Speaking of where they start, on Night 5, Mary starts about 3 cameras away from your door, and Rascal starts about 2 cameras away from your door, while Scarlet is on stage. Immediately, right out of the gate, you're at an enormous disadvantage. If you do nothing, within the first 10 seconds, Rascal will already be at your door. So you might think to just send him through, but almost directly after, Mary will be at your door, and uh-oh, you just used your PA. Guess it's time to kill myself. So then you think, okay, here's the strat. The moment the night starts, I'm gonna buzz Rascal and let Mary hit my door. I'll send her through and then stall Rascal with the light, which should give me just enough time to send him through before the lights go out. But uh-oh, fucker, you forgot about Scarlet, and now she's in your asshole. Okay, same strategy, except this time, after sending Mary through, we find Scarlet and send her back to the starting position, but oh shit! Rascal's at the door, so opening my cameras to move Scarlet now becomes super risky, and I'm fucked in the butthole again. Night 5 of Mary's Arcade is the bane of my existence, the piss in my pants, and the shit in my britches. It took me over 2 hours of attempts to figure out the pattern of this night's puzzle. Again, everything is the exact same every night, literally no RNG in the timings, so I started to develop a strategy. I needed to figure out exactly how Scarlet worked, and I'm pretty damn sure that I have. So, the night begins and Scarlet is in her start location. On Night 5, she will start by going left, the same side that Rascal goes. I know that my timing needs to be tight and precise, so my plan is to buzz Rascal on start immediately, let Mary through, and stall Rascal at the door with the light until my PA system is ready to then let him through. Since I have to be in the bottom right corner camera to let Rascal through, I need to make sure that Scarlet will be there, so that the moment I open the camera to let Rascal through, I will retroactively immediately push Scarlet away from my door. But we just established that she's going left, so what do? Well, if you push Scarlet to the main starting room, she will begin to attack the opposite side. So in Night 5, she begins by going counterclockwise. So if before Rascal reaches my door, but after I let Mary through, I push Scarlet back to the main room, she will then begin to move clockwise. This gives me time to stall Rascal while she moves. However, while stalling Rascal, I will have to make one risky move. If I leave her totally unanswered, she will kill me before my PA system refills, so I have to push her back at some point. Now, one might think if you push her back, she'll start going in the wrong direction, and we've already established that I want her to be in the bottom right corner camera by the time I send Rascal through. But something I found out about Scarlet. you can push her back as much as you want, but she won't switch directions unless you push her back to the main room. Meaning that if I sit on the bottom right corner camera in preparation for luring Rascal, I can temporarily stop flashing him with the light to pull up the camera and push Scarlet back into the kitchen camera and quickly go back to flashing Rascal. This will give my PA system just enough time to refill before Rascal's door timer runs out, allowing me to push Rascal through, and then push Scarlet back to the main room. You might be thinking now, wow, that took way more thinking than any game I've ever played in my entire life. But then you look at the time and realize that it's only 1 a.m. I have to figure out timings like that for the next 5 in-game hours. This right here is why this game took me so fucking long to beat. This scripted bullshit makes me want to get mauled by a bear. I would honestly rather have RNG because this just isn't fun. It doesn't feel like skill because each night is identical. At least with FNAF 2 10/20 mode, I know that I just got unlucky with Toy Bonnie and that next time I could just get lucky and win. But not with Mary's Arcade. Mary's Arcade is nothing but trial and error, spending 30 minutes figuring out a pattern, die, spend another 10 minutes solving the new problem, die, do it again and again and again until you realize that fucking 2 hours have passed and you've only solved up to 4 a.m. with a goddamn night. And then I get the displeasure of talking about 5 a.m. Oh, 5 a.m. You big, stinky, fat, smelly, sweaty, sticky, ugly, stupid, dumb, idiotic, brain-dead, moronic bitch. Right at the finale of 5 a.m., all of the cameras go completely out. You can't look at them. You're no longer able to see anything on the cameras, and it really comes down to you versus Scarlet. Scarlet, if unanswered, will make it to your office before you hit 6 a.m. every time without fail. But how exactly are you supposed to stop her if you can't see the cameras, you ask? I have no fucking idea. It was ironically sheer luck that I didn't die to her on my final run. My idea was that even though I couldn't see her, she was still there, meaning that if I knew where she was before the cameras went out, I could still land on the camera she was just on, wait for the camera to flicker letting me know I pushed her back, then continue to push her back to the main room and just camp that camera and wait to win, since Mary and Rascal showing up during the game's final desperation to keep me here was very, very uncommon. But there would be runs where I would do this and still miraculously die to Scarlet. I have no fucking idea where she was. I had no strategy, no puzzle to solve, no clues to go off of. Have you ever tried to put together a 100-piece jigsaw puzzle without looking at it? Play Mary's Arcade Night 5 a.m. After a few attempts of giving it a try, you'd be unzipping your pants and pulling your wiener out at the thought of attempting the jigsaw puzzle. I'm dead ass serious. I do not know how I beat this night. I could not replicate what I did. I watched multiple other people beat this night, and I didn't pick up on any patterns. I literally have no conceivable idea what I was expected to do at this point. I really hope someone in the comments could tell me what the intended route was, because I'm honestly so fucking confused. But after beating Night 5, the game is done. And so is this video. Psych, you fucking idiot. There's a challenge night. Nightmare mode. Fuck. I didn't beat it. No, I didn't even put in an attempt. The moment I saw Nightmare mode on my title screen, I uninstalled the fucking game. I could not even begin to handle the mental anguish that would fall upon me as a consequence of trying that. No thank you, I'm good. But lucky for us, there is a custom night that introduces some new characters. Kipper, Dipper, and Martin. Kipper and Dipper are canonically Mary and Rascal's kids. Their mechanic is really easy. When you see them in your doorway, flip up your camera and flip it back down. That's it. Since they look like Mary and Rascal, I think the goal was to get you to think they were Mary and Rascal and cause you to turn the lights on, killing you. But it really isn't that hard to tell the difference. Martin is also very easy. Martin will spawn on any camera at random. All you have to do is find him and stare him down until he temporarily goes away. Easy. There's also these little random puppets that show up in front of your face, and you'll have to boop their noses to make them go away. I don't really understand the point of them, but I guess I'll go with it. Props to Frogger and Shooter for actually beating this shit show of a custom night. I'm well aware others have beaten it, but Frogger was the first victor, and I just like watching Shooter's content. So congrats, guys. I don't know why you did this to yourself. I'm sure that the anguish and the pain of doing this will surely be retroactively laid off on your future wife and children. But that's Mary's Arcade.
I want you to think about the last time you've played a FNAF fan game that has introduced a mechanic you've never seen before. Maybe you think of Junior's deduction game mechanic. Maybe you think of Teelerland's upgrade system. Or maybe you dig really deep and think of One Night at Flumpty's 3 moving camera buttons. Whatever it may be, I'm sure you can agree that seeing a new mechanic is always interesting, and in my opinion is the most enjoyable part of playing FNAF games. I love exploring what people can come up with. Even if the new mechanics are frustrating, I still love them. The game we'll be covering today introduces a mechanic like nothing I've ever seen before. A game so obscure I'd never heard of it, and I'm willing to bet you've never heard of it either. The game we'll be covering today is After Hours at Cody's, a so far one-off FNAF fan game that introduces one of the most interesting game mechanics I've ever seen, while also telling one of the most gruesome and depraved stories I've ever witnessed. You're not going to want to miss what we have in store today, so let's dive into the world of After Hours at Cody's. Before each night, we get a small cutscene to show us a little bit of what we're getting into. In the Night 1 cutscene, we see a mysterious black figure cause one of the animatronics to awaken. And I'm not gonna lie, the animatronic that wakes up is a bit of a bad bitch, I'm not gonna lie to you. But with that, we do start Night 1. Night 1 obviously introduces one threat. But before we can start talking about that threat, we need to talk about the mechanic in this game that makes it so unique: the cameras. Taking a look at them, you'll notice that there's a long bar in the center of the map with one small section of it being red and a small rectangle quickly moving back and forth across it. If you haven't figured out what these cameras are about to do yet, then let me tell you. When you switch cameras, you will need to time the camera switch up with when the small moving rectangle is inside of the red bar. If you mistime it, then the camera you clicked on will load very slowly, and this is a very fast-paced game. If you time it properly, the camera will load almost instantly. This is such an interesting mechanic that I originally thought I was going to hate. But it's because of this mechanic that I've actually put After Hours at Cody's in my top 5 favorite FNAF fan games of all time. But the timing doesn't only relate to how fast your cameras load. If that was all it did, then this mechanic would be pretty lackluster overall. It also plays a much more integral role with a core mechanic of the game: the power. Your power drains pretty quickly in this game. However, there is a way to recharge it. And unlike in most FNAF games where you can recharge power, it's surprisingly not done by holding down a fucking button like a music box. Thank dick. This time around, it's also tied to the timing mechanic in the cameras. Every time you properly time a camera switch, a small battery multiplier will increase by 1 at the bottom of the camera. The higher that multiplier is, the more power will increase, with a maximum multiplier of 30. However, if you don't properly time a switch fast enough, then the multiplier will start to quickly decrease. So constantly switching cameras is a must. I think this is easily one of the most unique mechanics I've ever seen. It adds a level of skill that most other FNAF games just don't have. Most FNAF games' skill ceilings are marked by your reflexes. This one is marked by your rhythm, and I think that's awesome. But anyways, onto the threat this night introduces: Bad Bitch Bella. Or as this game calls her, Bella the Beaver. I think my name is a little bit better though, personally. Bad Bitch Bella has a very simple motive: walk to your office, put a collar on you, and walk you like a dog. You guys can feel free to defend yourself from her, which I will explain how to do in a moment, but I for one will already be on my hands and knees by the time she enters the office. She will try to enter your office through camera 5 or your right door. In camera 5, she'll have 2 stages. One where she's far away from the camera, and another where she's much closer. Once she moves to her second phase, you will have to use your camera's alarm system, which, lucky us, is also tied to the timing mechanic. When you press the alarm button, if you don't time it with the red bar, the audio will not play and you'll have to wait for your alarm to charge back up. When you use the alarm on Bad Bitch Bella, she will look at the camera. When she does, all you have to do is close your door.
and eventually she will go back to the stage. If you don't use the alarm on her, she will pound on your door and drain a lot of power before leaving, and then Operation Walk You Like a Dog will be set in motion. Very easy character to explain two very important mechanics in this game. I think After Hours at Cody's Night 1 is a great example of properly introducing your game's core mechanics in a way that isn't confusing or overwhelming. Plus, you made the character really hot for no reason at all. This is a children's establishment. Why are the characters hot? That's something I'll never be able to wrap my head around. Now, how do we actually complete the night? Surviving until 6 a.m., Dexter? You fucking retard? Whoa. Hey now. The people in my comments don't like it when you say that word. Do better, retard. Anyways, no. Surviving until 6 a.m. is not how you complete a night in this game. After Hours at Cody's opts to use a task-based completion system. Now everyone hold your breath, because this could either make or break this game depending on how shitty the tasks are. You can exhale. It's okay. The task is mundane. However, it plays into the game's core mechanic, so it actually makes for a very satisfying gameplay loop. Remember that black figure that brought the bad bitch back to life? Well, that character is known in this game as the Anomaly. And judging by that name alone, I'm willing to bet you can guess what this guy is going to do and what the task system in this game is. The Anomaly has a random chance to appear on any of the cameras in your game at any time. If at any point you find him, you will have to use your alarm on the camera that he's on. When you do, your Anomaly counter will go up. After you find him 10 times, the night will be over. You do have to note that he will not always be on a camera, and if you don't find him fast enough when he appears, he will not stay on a camera forever and will eventually leave. Again, overall this mechanic is pretty boring, but because of how well it ties into the timing mechanic, it serves as one of the most enjoyable FNAF experiences I've ever had. But now on to night 2, except I lied because we actually have a cutscene to talk about first.
My dear friends, the worst has come to pass. As many of you may already know, my brother, Darren, has not been found since his disappearance earlier this year. He meant the world to me, as I'm sure he did to plenty of you too. His astounding creativity and infallible craftsmanship became the source of so many wonderful memories for children all across the country. These moments we shared will remain evergreen to me for as long as I live. Before I continue though, I'd like to show you this. A child at Cody's gave this to me once when I was visiting the restaurant. Wonderful, isn't it? This creativity we inspire. As it pains me to say, I do understand the suspicion people may have had toward me in the months following my brother's disappearance. But please, I urge you all to understand how these events have weighed heavy on me. He was my family too. The threats I've received since then caused me to think about my place in all this. I know I may not have been the most communicative or involved between the two of us, but I still did hold so much love for the work we did together. All this is to say that I will be stepping down as proprietor of Cody & Co. I've had a long and fulfilling career, and I only hope that the kindness I've shown will continue to reflect on the company as I look forward to finding someone new to handle the reins. But until then, I hope only to leave this company in a better state than it currently remains. If my being a part of this only serves to obstruct the joy and wonder that my brother and I wish to impart, then perhaps it is best if I step down and let the magic live on without me. Thank you for everything. I genuinely had a wonderful time.
So, we have two brothers that started this company together, and one of them tragically died. Now, I'm no FNAF expert. okay, maybe I am a little. I think we're all smart enough to know that the pain in this guy's voice is definitely a little bit sussy. I'm not pointing any fingers here, but if it comes out that his brother is the one who killed him, I would not be surprised in the slightest. Anyways, on to night 2. By the way, if you were curious as to how this game explains the anomaly, well, the phone guy blatantly tells us that we're ghost hunting. Everyone that works in this building knows about this thing and what it can do, and we were more so hired to remove it. If I signed up for a night watch job and got told that, I would walk out of that building before the poor bastard could even hang up. Night 2 introduces one new threat, Morris, who also introduces the last major mechanic this game has to talk about, the curtain behind you. I haven't actually mentioned it so far, but yes, you can turn around in your office to find a curtain. It vaguely reminds me of the curtain from those nights at Rachel's. However, this game isn't mind-numbingly boring like that one is. Morris will slowly creep out from behind the curtains throughout the night. Occasionally, you'll have to turn around and force him back. However, unlike most curtain mechanics like this, it isn't just pulling them closed or holding your light on it. After Hours at Cody's needs to get a little bit quirky. Introducing probably the most frustrating mechanic in the entire game. Next to the curtains, you'll see 4 buttons. Each button has a color. You might be thinking, Dexter, I'm looking at them and not a single one of them has a color. Well, you see, dear viewer, that's what I thought too. However, no, they do indeed have a color. You just can't see which color each button is until you press it, which I think is very stupid. Morris has 5 phases before jump scaring you. The first phase is the phase you'll mostly see him in. All you'll be able to see is his nose. This is the furthest back that he can be, so if he looks like this, you're all good. The next 4 phases each correspond to one of those buttons. So depending on how close he is to ganking you, you will have to select the correct colored button and then flash your light on him to make him go back to phase 1. What do the buttons mixed with the flashlight have to do with sending him back? I really have no idea. And in all honesty, I think this is easily the weakest part of the entire game. But that's not where my frustration with Morris ends. No, not at all. Believe it or not, turning around in your office can be a frustrating experience for literally no reason whatsoever. How, you might be asking? Well, I'd be more than happy to explain it to you. Let's say you're facing towards your doors. Bad bitch Bella is at your door, so for now, the door is closed. While this door is closed, apparently Beth, the name of our player, gets fucking glued to the goddamn ground and is unable to move an inch. Because if either one of your doors are closed, you will be unable to turn around to check on Morris. How does this make any sense at all? It literally fucking doesn't. And that's not all. It gets even more frustrating. Let's imagine you're facing Morris. You press a button and flash your light to send him back. Now it's time to turn around and start filling up our power in the camera again. But uh-oh, fucker! You forgot to press the button you already fucking pressed. Because if any of the buttons are currently toggled on, you can't turn around. Why? Who the fuck knows? I love this game a lot, but holy shit, this is one of the most retarded things I've ever seen. It doesn't make any sense at all. Well, whatever. It's frustrating. It's stupid, but I didn't let it ruin my experience with the rest of this amazing game. Speaking of, let's move on to the post-night 2 cutscene.
Greetings, employee, and welcome to Part 3 of the Warren Tech Mascot Training Module. In this chapter, we'll be demonstrating how to safely wear and operate our patented Flex mascot suit. To begin the process, locate the 4 winding ports present on each of the character's limbs. Use your company-issued war wrench to turn counterclockwise and disengage the mascot's enhanced performance mode. You should notice the eyes glow red from the activation of the light relay. This means that the mascot is ready to be worn. Simply be warned. Do not, by any circumstances, wear the mascot suit while it is still in its enhanced performance mode. Its specialized routines involve the full rotation and contortion of the extremities. Should you be caught in the suit during the performance of one of these routines, do not panic. If you can, tuck your legs and arms into the main torso and lower your head as far as possible.
Repeat the phrase, Abort showtime routine. Jonah protocol in effect. Abort showtime routine. Jonah protocol in effect.
So it seems we've found After Hours at Cody's Spring Lock equivalent. And in all honesty, I think it's way more brutal than the Spring Lock suit could ever be. Imagine being locked inside of that clown suit, only for the arms and legs to start twisting, breaking your bones, ripping your tendons, and contorting your bodies in ways it was never supposed to bend. This is easily one of the most terrifying ideas I've ever seen in a FNAF game before, and I'm all for it. Night 3 introduces one new threat, Jack the Jackal. He acts as this game's Chica, being a borderline exact copy of Bad Bitch Bella, except she's a 10 and he's like a 4 at best on a good day. As I'm sure you could have expected, Jack does the exact same thing as Bella, except he attacks camera 6 and your left door instead of your right. The same system and rules apply to him. He has 2 phases on camera 6. Once he's in his second phase, use the alarm on him and close the door until he leaves. Simple sugar. We've dealt with this before, however, it does add a decent deal of pressure in combination with what we already have. The cooldown for the alarm is relatively slow, and now having 3 consistent problems we need to use it on, it could easily start to get out of hand fast. Not to mention having another door character which could prevent us from turning around to check on Morris. This game can get stressful, but I honestly think that's one of the most enjoyable parts about it.
Clocking out? Okay. Have a good night then. Hey, Lonnie, mind if I talk to you about something?
Oh, of course. I was just about to finish up here. What's on your mind?
So, I've been going over the company's financial statements to help allocate the budget for next year. I noticed that some of our bank capital's been withdrawn and donated to a couple of undisclosed recipients. They've been blocked out. You wouldn't happen to know anything about this, would you? Okay. If you don't know anything about it, I'll just go ask Cynthia.
You won't get anything of value out of her. I made those withdrawals.
Alright, that's fine, but let me know next time. Given how much was spent, I don't have enough money left to fund my R&D for the new mascots next year. We need to focus on improving the restaurant before doing anything like this, okay? Anyways, who were the recipients anyway? You're joking, Lonnie. Tell me you're joking.
Quite the opposite, I'm afraid.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And after all that shit about dedicating yourself to the betterment of the company, to promise a business that would never do anything to harm its audience again, you pulled this on me?
Look, calm down. I can explain.
No, you can't explain shit. You may put up a face to get them to tolerate you, but I'll be damned if you ever gave a shit about the kids. I'm the one working my ass off out there to cover for your mistakes.
I said calm down! Don't even start with me. Your pitiful self-righteousness is pathetic. Do you not remember the hole I dug you out of? You owe every part of the success to me. I made this company, and I made you! Don't try to push superiority onto me when you're the one who crawled to me, begging for my help all those years ago. What I do with my company's funds is none of your business. Do what is asked of you before I decide you're no longer needed.
Fine, you made your point.
Glad we came to an agreement. Be seeing you.
Whatever.
So, the brother Lonnie, who we heard in the Night 1 cutscene, has been spending company money on something shady. The exact contents have been redacted, but judging from Daryl's reaction, it's not good news. We also have a pretty big argument about money here. And if we're still rolling with my theory that Lonnie had something to do with Daryl's death, money is one of the most common reasons for murder. Again, not necessarily pointing any fingers, Okay, that's a lie. Yes, I am. There's no way in fuck Lonnie isn't the reason Daryl died, but I guess only time will tell. Night 4 introduces the main attraction himself, Cody. Really shitty name, by the way. The only Cody I like is this gay guy who wears a lot of blue and has some yellow ass teeth. Anyways, on to what Cody from the game does. Cody's main goal in this game is to absolutely rail your power supply. There are 2 cameras which have breaker boxes in them. They must be female because Cody really wants to break their boxes with his big fat patty whacker double-decker robo dig. When he's in either of these cameras, he'll have 2 phases. One where he's just kind of chilling there, and the other where he's having intercourse with said breaker box. When you see him doing his thing with his big fat patty whacker double-decker robo dick, use the alarm on his camera to scare him away. If you don't, obviously your power is going to disintegrate like the cells on my testicles when I accidentally place them on the stove. So, here we have yet another character that requires us to use the alarm system. Can you start to see how this game could become stressful? Especially considering that our alarm has a pretty long cooldown time in reference to the amount of characters that require its use. Yeah, it can become a bit much at times, but in all honesty, I never felt like this game was unfair. I never felt like there was even an inkling of RNG. This game is so fun. You guys really need to check it out, or check out my full playthrough over on my second channel, Dxtr Black.
I'm done.
Just what is the meaning of this?
I can't keep covering your ass. I've just about had it. I've been trying to keep the magic alive for years at this point, but everything you've done has just thrown a wrench in every plan I've had. Every single time I was at the cusp of making something good for our audience, you've pulled the rug out from under my feet. Whatever, I know your heart was never really in it. Hell, we both know that neither of us would be here if it weren't for my mascots.
Do I need to remind you of the last time we've had this conversation?
No, because I've been thinking about what you said. Sure, you helped me out of a dark place, but I'm sure as goddamn hell you only ever did it to leech off my talent, knowing full well you couldn't produce a fraction of what we've accomplished here on your own.
Just get to the point. You're wasting my time.
I've had Cynthia pull our financial statements from the last 2 years. Don't even think about going after her when this is done, because she's made up her mind to leave long ago. I have the contacts of every news outlet in the state, ready to publish the uncensored documents at a moment's notice.
What? Are you dense? Don't you realize that this is gonna spell the end of you too?
I do. Besides, however this turns out sure as hell beats trying to steer a ship that's been sinking for years now. So I'm gonna give you 2 options. Walk away now and forsake your every stake in this company, or take the fall with me and lose everything anyway.
You belligerent, unthinking fool! You really haven't changed at all, have you? Still the over-emotional disaster of a child you've been since we were kids. God, it's no wonder Mom and Dad gave up on you so damn easily. You know what? Do your worst. You won't get anything out of me.
Then I guess you made your choice.
God damn it, Doria, get back here! This isn't something you just decide!
I've told you, my name is Daryl. Goodbye, Bonnie.
No, this can't be happening.
Why are you making me do this?
Tisk, tisk, tisk. Well. Looky what we have here. Exactly as I suspected. Lonnie killed his brother. Sure, Daryl was gonna bring the entire company to its knees, but to be fair, it was entirely Lonnie's fault. I also want to use this cutscene to bring up a problem I have with some FNAF fan games. Voice acting can really make or break an impactful scene in a game. You really need to be able to get an actor or actress who can really bring that energy that the role needs to tell its story. Lonnie's voice acting is bad, and it really shows in this Night 4 cutscene. From the mumbling, making it hard to understand what he's saying if it wasn't for the subtitles, to the actor not really yelling during a scene where he needs to be yelling, it makes this scene, which is supposed to be impactful and shocking, just feel very awkward and uncomfortable. Not every game needs voice acting either. If you're a dev working on a FNAF game, or any game for that matter, and you just can't quite find an actor or actress that can fit your role with the vision you had in your head, I honestly think it's much better to just leave the voicing up to the player, rather than using an actor or actress that is going to make your scenes feel like they came out of Garden of Banban, a game series with notoriously horrendous voice acting. Anyways, moving on to Night 5. It introduces nothing new and just serves as a more difficult version of Night 4, so there's obviously not a whole lot to talk about here. However, what we can talk about is the post-Night 5 cutscene.
Hello? Oh, hello? Lonnie, what is this? Get me the hell out of here.
No. They can't know. God. Why are you making me do this?
Wait, what? Lonnie, what the hell are you thinking of doing?
Please. Don't make this harder than it has to be.
Lonnie, please, no. Listen, don't do this. I'm your brother!
You made me do this! They can't know. No one can know.
Please, Lonnie, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I don't want to die.
Now, no one will know. I'm sorry, Daryl.
So, Daryl was killed via the Flex clown suit, this game's Springlocks. It's not often you see someone other than the villain in a FNAF game fall to one of these traps. I was definitely shocked when I first saw this, and you can see my reaction to it over on my second channel, Dxtr Black. Truly one of the most brutal death scenes I've ever seen come out of a FNAF game. Except this time around, it didn't happen to someone we wanted it to happen to. Night 6 introduces this game's final 2 threats, and one of them is obviously the clown, Klaus, acting as this game's boss fight night. Klaus acts as every character we've seen so far, and that includes the anomaly. Klaus can attack both of your doors, can try to break your breaker boxes with his big fat patty whacker double-decker robo dick, and is the anomaly you have to find. Namely, if his eyes are glowing, that's how you know to play the alarm. Do this 10 times and the night is over. But what about Morris? It's stated in the phone call that Klaus destroyed all of the animatronics. What about a Morris mechanic? Well, Morris is replaced by this night's second new threat, Shadow Cody, who is a much faster version of Morris. If you thought you had to check on Morris a lot, you have to check on Shadow Cody a fuck ton more. This night is intense. Klaus is fast. He will be moving around your cameras, attacking you very quickly. And in addition to the incredibly aggressive Shadow Cody, it really serves to test the limits of your skills and your timings, easily being one of my favorite nights in this entire game, and being one of, if not my favorite boss fight night in any FNAF game I've ever played.
We're going to do wonderful things.
Before Beth can leave the building, she's caught by Klaus, and is never seen by another human being ever again. A local who goes by the name Bethany Hasters has been reported missing as of Sunday 5 a.m. Last seen at Cody & Co.'s Game & Grub Authorities have been searching the vicinity and its surrounding forest areas to deduct what could have occurred. There is no current suspicion of foul play, but a manhunt will be conducted within the week. Authorities state to have found her place of work in disarray, sparking suspicions of the suspect being inebriated or the like. In addition to this, the robot entertainers of the restaurant were found completely disassembled and damaged beyond repair. The company has yet to release a statement, but the resigning CEO has spoken with authorities and announces that the robots will be sent for repair at one of the company's sister facilities. This story is depraved, and trust me, there's a lot that goes into it. Long before the game takes place, Cody & Co.'s Game & Grub was meant to be a second chance, a reopening of a restaurant that had already failed once before, revived under the guidance of Warren Technology. On the surface, it was nothing special. A modest, arcade-style diner built around animatronic mascots, struggling to stay relevant in a world that had already moved on. But beneath that fragile revival was something unstable, something unfinished, quietly embedded into the building's systems. That presence became known as the anomaly. Employees noticed it first, small things at the beginning, strange glitches in the animatronics' behaviors, systems responding without being touched, errors appearing where none should exist. Management acknowledged it, but only as a technical problem, something to be observed, something to be measured, not something to be feared. By the time Bethany Hasters was hired as the night guard, the anomaly was already spreading. Bethany's job was simple on paper: work the overnight shift, monitor the building, and collect data on the anomaly's activity. Her first night begins on November 9th, 1997, and at first, the restaurant almost feels dormant, quiet, empty. But that stillness doesn't last long, because each night, the anomaly grows more aggressive, and it chooses its host one by one. The first animatronic to fall under its influence is Bella the Beaver. Once a friendly mascot, Bella becomes erratic, hostile, and unpredictable, her movements no longer matching her original programming. The following night, Morris the Mouse is corrupted as well, then Jack the Jackal. Each evening, another animatronic loses control, as if something is slowly rewriting them from the inside. All the while, the anomaly watches Bethany. By Thursday night, even Cody, the face of the restaurant itself, is no longer safe. His corruption marks a turning point. The anomaly has nearly overtaken the entire system. Whatever restraint once existed is gone, and by Friday, the restaurant's original code is on the brink of a total collapse. Behind all of this is Warren Technology, and more specifically, the company's founders, Daryl and Lonnie Warren. Years earlier, Daryl had been responsible for developing advanced animatronic technology, including a dangerous experimental suit known as the Flex suit. At some point, Daryl was betrayed and trapped inside that suit. Whether intentional or negligent, the result was the same. Daryl never escaped, and what remained of him became something else entirely. The anomaly. On Friday night, Lonnie Warren lies about a meeting, betrays another employee, and secretly releases what remains of Daryl from backstage confinement. By Saturday, the animatronics have been dismantled, but the threat hasn't ended. The anomaly has a body now, a form known as Klaus, and it is no longer bound to systems or code. It hunts Bethany directly. Saturday night becomes less about surviving malfunctioning machines and more about avoiding a conscious entity moving freely through the building. And if that wasn't enough, another presence emerges: Shadow Cody, a dark manifestation tied to the restaurant's collapse, appearing as an additional threat. In the end, Bethany doesn't escape. She's caught by Klaus and taken away, her fate left deliberately unclear. In the final cutscene, Daryl, still trapped within Klaus, offers her a gift, hinting that her story isn't over, and that whatever comes next will involve choice, consequence, and continuation. And that's where After Hours at Cody's leaves us. A restaurant reopened too late, a company that tried to bury its mistakes, and a presence that was never just a glitch, but the remains of someone who was never allowed to leave.
But that's not where After Hours at Cody's comes to a close. Not quite yet. We still have something very interesting to talk about. If you go to the custom night menu after completing the final night, you will see a small chest icon in the bottom corner. Clicking on it will bring you to a FNAF 4 styled lock box with 2 padlocks. And rest assured, we can get the keys. The first key is locked behind 520 mode. If there's anything you guys know about me, it's that I'm absolutely terrible at Five Nights at Freddy's games. But you want to hear something crazy? I was actually able to beat this max mode, and I even did it on my first try. I would usually never even give a max mode a try, and at the time of playing it, I didn't know that beating it would give me a key. Does that let me unlock one of the boxes? Oh my god, it did! So the fact that I played it and beat it goes to show just how much I enjoyed this game, and I really think you guys will too. But what about the second key? Well, you get it by completing this game's second max mode, 220 mode with Klaus and Shadow Cody, which yes, I also beat, and yes, I also beat on my first try. I don't think this game is necessarily very difficult by any means, but I am still very proud of myself for actually doing it. And watching me play it over on my second channel, Dxtr Black, makes me look like I'm a lot better at these types of games than I really am. After completing both max modes, we can take the keys and unlock the box to find a very menacing looking character whose eyes turn on. A teaser for what will undoubtedly be a second game, and I believe that this character we see here is Bethany. But only time will tell. One last thing I want to talk about is something you can find in the extras menu. If you scroll through the characters until you find Klaus and hover over his face, you will see what I believe to be the rotting, decompiling corpse of Daryl. Truly one of the most disturbing images I've ever seen in a FNAF game. And with that, that's all After Hours at Cody's has to offer. Overall, I think this game is easily one of the most unique, interesting, and fun FNAF games I've ever played. Right up there with how much fun I had playing Juniors. After Hours at Cody's really is a super fun experience with a gruesome, easy to follow story, and I highly recommend you give it a try. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with me, or do you think I'm just glazing this game because I was able to beat it? Let me know in the comments below. In my Remnants of Tubbyland video, I asked you guys what your favorite horror game from 2025 was, and my favorite answer was this one by Skeletons. They said, "No, I'm Not Human," and I totally agree. I absolutely loved that game, and you can see my full playthrough of it over on my third channel, Dxtr Gray, which a lot of people don't even know exists. The question of this video is, what upcoming FNAF game are you looking forward to this year in 2026? With the question of the video being asked, subscribe to the channel, I'd appreciate it a lot. Thank you to all of my superfan channel members, you guys guzzle chug jugs of Riz sauce. I've been Dxtr, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya!